Chapter 1. The shadow before the man Riddle Street always delivered the whisper before the truth. That night, a shadow stretched across the brick wall before the man turned the corner. Movement precedes presence, but shadows don't usually run ahead of their owners. Nero Wolfe watched the wall longer than the body lying near the service door. "Someone," he said quietly, rushed reality. "I was the one who moved first, because that is my job, and Wolfe's job is to look like he owns the universe, and is merely granting it permission to continue." The alley behind the row of narrow warehouses had a stale smell of wet cardboard, old onions, and the kind of fear that does not have the decency to announce itself. A single bulb above the service door made a puddle of yellow light on the bricks. In it, the body lay angled like a carelessly dropped coat. Only it was not a coat, and it did not look careless. Wolfe did not step closer. He did not need to. His eyes were enough. He stood in the mouth of the alley, hat brim low, his bulk a deliberate obstacle to the wind that came down the street like it had a grudge. When he spoke again, it was the same calm as if he were correcting the placement of a spoon at dinner. "The shadow arrived first," he murmured. "Therefore the light was interrupted before the man appeared. That is not a poetic observation. Archie, it is a fact." "Sure," I said, "because when Wolfe says a thing like that, he expects you to either agree or be wrong. So the guy was close to the wall before he turned the corner, or somebody else did the interrupting. He turned his eyes on me, not his head." Wolfe seldom wasted motion that did not produce a result. "Proceed," he said. I proceeded. My shoes made soft sounds on damp grit. The man's face was turned toward the bricks, cheek mashed, one ear visible and pale. His hands were under him. That meant either he fell and tried to break it, or somebody arranged him to look as if he fell and cared enough to tuck the hands in so they would not point a finger at the truth. He wore a decent overcoat, not new, and a hat that had rolled a couple of feet away and stopped against a broken crate. The hat was the kind that had once been respectable and now was resigned. I crouched. No blood on the bricks, no puddle, no theatrical display. That, in New York, is the first disappointment death usually hands you. I touched his neck. Cold, but not the cold of a body that has been dead since lunch. Stiffness had begun, not committed. I lifted his eyelid. The eye stared at nothing with the dull patience of a marble. "He is dead," I called back. "I possess eyes," Wolfe said mildly. I shifted the man's collar and checked for a wound at the back of the neck. Nothing obvious. I ran a hand along the lapels, inside pockets, not rummaging, just learning. His coat smelled faintly of pipe tobacco and starch. I found a wallet in the inside breast pocket and handed it back over my shoulder, without looking, because if Wolfe wants the name first, he gets it first. Wolfe's thick fingers took the wallet as if it were a specimen in a jar. He opened it and held it near the light. "Graham Riddle," he read. "Riddle Importing Company. Address on West 27th. Identification, business cards, and a modest sum of money." I blinked at the street name that was still in my ears. "Riddle Street delivers a whisper," I said. "Now we have a riddle. That is either fate or somebody with a sense of humor that needs correction." "Coincidence," Wolfe said, though he did not sound entirely convinced. "Continue your examination." I did. The man's shoes were good, but the soles had seen city miles. His cuffs were clean. His hands, now that I pulled one free, were the hands of a man who handled papers more than tools. Under the nails, faint black, not dirt, ink, or carbon. On the ground near his left shoulder was a small thing that did not belong in an alley, a sliver of green no bigger than a postage stamp, glossy on one side, fibrous on the other. It looked like it had been torn. I picked it up between thumb and forefinger. "What have you?" Wolfe asked. "A bit of something," I said. "Green, like a label, or part of an envelope." "Show me." I walked it back. Wolfe took it and held it up, turning it in the light. His lips tightened in a way I had learned meant interest. "Cellulose," he said. "A glossy coating, perhaps. From a shipping seal. The green is unusual." "Unusual like orchids?" I asked. His eyes cut at me. Do not be puerile. Orchids are never torn. Tell that to the guy who got flattened by a service door, I said. No visible wound, Wolfe. Either he got the polite kind of poison, or someone persuaded his heart to quit without leaving a mess. Wolfe's gaze went back to the body, then to the wall where the shadow had played its little trick. I heard no shot, he said. No cry, you heard none. The street is not so distant, therefore death was quiet. Plenty of quiet ways, I said, and quiet people who use them. Wolfe took out his handkerchief, wrapped the green fragment, and put it in his pocket with the care he usually reserved for a rare bloom. We will not call the police, he said. I straightened. We will not what? We will not call the police, Wolfe repeated, patient, as if explaining that water is wet. Not yet. Wolfe, there is a dead man in an alley, and his name is Riddle, and we are standing here like we are waiting for the second act. The police tend to get cranky about that. Yes, they are frequently cranky. It is one of their limitations. He looked at me. Archie, you have not asked the essential question. Which is, I said, because I was already asking all of them. Why we are here, Wolfe said. I stared at him, then at the dead man, then back. Because you wanted to walk, I said. Because you had indigestion from Fritz's roast duck. Because you are secretly training for a marathon. Pick one. I do not jest, Wolfe said. I sighed. All right. Why are we here? Because at 7:30 this evening, Wolfe said. The note requested that I meet its writer at 9 o'clock at this address. It stated that a matter of life and death required my attention and that the police could not be trusted. It also stated that the writer would stand beneath the light above this service door. He took a folded paper from his pocket and held it out. I took it, opened it, and read it. The handwriting was careful, slanted a little, the kind of hand that had learned discipline early and never forgiven it. Mr. Wolfe, if you value truth more than convenience, meet me tonight at 9 at the service door of Haraway Warehouse, Riddle Street. I will be beneath the light. Bring only Mr. Goodwin. A life depends on it. The police cannot be trusted with this, gra, I said, and felt the damp air suddenly get heavier. Graham Riddle, so this is our appointment. Indeed, Wolfe said. And he is beneath the light, I said, just not standing. Wolfe's mouth drew down. You perceive the inadequacy of your humor, Archie. Sure, I said. My humor is inadequate, and your client is dead. That is the kind of thing that puts a crimp in an evening. Wolfe looked once more at the wall. The shadow preceded the man. That means there was a second figure near the corner, between the light and the wall, before Riddle appeared. Or a car passing, I said. No, Wolfe said quietly. A passing car would not cast such a defined interruption. It would flicker. This was steady. Someone stood there. Someone waited. I felt the back of my neck prickle. So we walked into a setup, I said. Wolfe did not answer. He did not need to. The alley answered for him. It held its breath the way a room does when the wrong guest enters. I stepped out to the street and looked both ways. Riddle Street was one of those narrow Manhattan streets that pretends it is still in the old days, with warehouses that have names painted on bricks and loading docks that have seen better decades. At this hour it was mostly empty, but you could never count on empty in New York. Empty just means it is waiting. A taxi rolled by, tires hissing. Two men in coats walked on the far sidewalk, heads down, minds elsewhere. No one looked toward the alley. No one stopped. That is New York too, a city that will step over a whisper if it is inconvenient. I went back to Wolfe. We should call the cops, I said. Or at least call Kramer. He will still be cranky, but he is our brand of cranky. Wolfe's eyes were thoughtful. Inspector Kramer would arrive, he said, and immediately ask why I did not call him sooner. He would also take the note, the fragment, and my patience. He would then proceed with the crude vigor of his profession. We would be reduced to observers. You like being observers, I said. You observe all day. I observe in my house, Wolfe said. I do not observe incompetence. I swallowed a remark and replaced it with a practical one. All right, we do your way for 10 minutes. Then we call deal. Wolfe did not acknowledge a deal. He simply moved, finally stepping into the alley and stopping beside the body. He did not bend. He did not touch. He looked. There is no struggle indicated, he said. His hat is displaced but not crushed. His coat is orderly. The position suggests collapse rather than impact. Poison, I said, or a jab with something tiny. Wolfe's eyes moved to the service door. It was metal, painted a tired grey. The handle was scuffed. A padlock hung from a hasp. Locked above it, the light buzzed faintly. Beneath the light, on the ground near the door, was a cigarette butt. It was fresh, still damp at the end. Wolfe's nostrils flared. Tobacco, he said, and not a cigarette that Mr. Riddle would have smoked, I think. His coat smells of pipe tobacco. So our second figure smoked cigarettes, I said. That narrows it down to half of Manhattan. Wolfe's gaze shifted to the padlock. Archie, he said, open that. I looked at him. With what? My charm. You possess tools, Wolfe said. I did. In my pocket was the small case that held picks and such, because you never know when a door will refuse to cooperate. I knelt by the lock, shielded the mechanism from the light with my hand, and went to work. It took under a minute. The lock clicked open with a little sigh, like it was relieved to be useful. I pulled it free and set it down. The door did not move when I tried it. It opened inward, and something on the other side blocked it. I pressed harder. It gave a fraction, then stopped. Blocked, I said. Wolfe's eyes were fixed on the crack. There is something immediately inside, he said. Perhaps a crate, perhaps a man. That would be festive, I muttered. I put my shoulder to the door, careful not to slam it in case whoever set this scene had left a surprise. It shifted another inch. I could smell cold air from inside, dry and dusty, and something else, a faint sharpness, like disinfectant or chemicals Wolfe inhaled once. His face still. Do you smell that? He asked. Yeah, I said, like a pharmacy's back room. Not a pharmacy, Wolfe said. Something used in shipping, perhaps. I pushed again. Something scraped on the floor inside. The door opened far enough for me to angle my head and peer through. The interior was dim, lit only by a weak light far down the warehouse aisle. The space immediately behind the door held a wooden pallet stacked with cartons. One carton had been ripped open, and the contents spilled slightly, not enough to cause a mess, just enough to suggest haste. On the carton, I could see a green seal, glossy, the same shade as the fragment in Wolfe's pocket. I glanced at Wolfe. Green seal, I said. Matches your scrap. Wolfe's eyes sharpened. Then it is not arbitrary. It is a marker. I opened the door another inch and slipped through sideways. Wolfe did not follow. That was another thing about him. He likes doors opened, not bodies squeezed. He remained outside, bulk filling the alley like a monument. Inside, the warehouse air was dry and cold. The cartons on the pallet were stamped with a name in black, Riddle Importing Co. Under that, smaller, fragile. There were other pallets farther in, stacks of crates, the usual. But this pallet by the door was placed like a barricade. Someone had dragged it there to block entry, then realized it would draw attention, and left it half-hearted, or they meant it to be found. I stepped around the pallet and followed the aisle toward the weak light. My footsteps sounded too loud, so I adjusted my weight and moved like I was stealing my own shoes. Halfway down the aisle I saw the source of the light, a desk lamp on a small office table, set up in the open space, as if someone had been doing paperwork in the middle of storage. On the table were papers, a ledger, and a brown bottle with a label turned away. Beyond the table, near a stack of crates, was a second body. I stopped. The city has a way of making you tough, but it does not make you immune. Two bodies where you expected none is the kind of thing that pulls the jokes out of your mouth and leaves you with plain words. I backed up to the door and called softly, "Wolfe." What? He called back. There is another one. Silence. Then Wolfe's voice, controlled. Describe. Male, I said, lying near crates. I cannot see his face clearly from here. There's a lamp and papers, like somebody had a meeting right in the warehouse. A meeting, Wolfe repeated, and I could hear something shift in him. Wolfe loves order. A meeting in a warehouse aisle is an insult to his sense of civilization. Also, I added, there are your green seals on cartons Riddle importing. This place is tied to him. I will enter, Wolfe said. I almost laughed, but it came out as a breath. Careful, Wolfe, there could be a third. There is always a third, Wolfe said. It is the nature of foolishness. He squeezed in, grumbling under his breath at the indignity of the door. He moved with the deliberate steadiness of a man who refuses to be hurried by death. When he reached me, his eyes went past me to the aisle, and I saw the familiar tightening around his mouth. Barbarous, he said. Welcome to New York, I told him. The rent is high and the corpses come in pairs. We approached the second body together. The man lay on his back, arms at his sides, eyes open, mouth slightly parted, as if he had been about to protest, and then decided it was not worth it. He was younger than Riddle, maybe mid-30s. His suit was expensive and wrinkled. On his tie was a small pin, a stylized bird, silver. Wolfe looked at the pin longer than at the man's face. A corporate emblem, he said. A bird, perhaps a hawk. Not necessarily Haraway's public mark, possibly a private handling insignia. Or a gull, I said. Hard to say in this light. Wolfe's eyes went to the table with the lamp. He moved to it. He did not touch the bottle. He looked at the papers. Ledger entries, he said. Shipping lists, names, dates, amounts. His voice went colder. This is not a casual arrangement. I leaned over the edge of the table, careful not to smudge anything. The top paper was a typed list with columns. The heading read, Green Seal Consignments. Below were entries with dates and destinations, some domestic, some overseas. Beside each entry was a code, a number, and initials. One set of initials repeated, GR another set, HS another, MK, I pointed. As and MK, I said. And GR is our dead man outside. If he wrote that note, he was trying to bring you into this. Wolfe's eyes flicked toward the bottle, then away again. Do not touch it, he said. I wasn't going to drink it, I said. I learned my lesson the last time Fritz made. That mushroom pate, and you accused me of insulting his palate. Wolfe ignored that. He looked down at the second body. Search him, he said. I did. The man had a wallet too, and his name was on a card. Harlan Sloan. Under the name, Haraway Logistics, Executive Operations. The address was in Midtown. There was also a key ring with 2 keys and a small plastic tag, green, with a number printed on it. I held it up. Green again, I said. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. Yes, he said. A system, a mark, a shadow that arrives before the man. I felt the warehouse around us settle into a new shape, like a room rearranging itself, after you learn the host is a liar. A sound came then, faint but distinct. A scrape far down the aisle behind stacks of crates. Not the building, not a rat, a foot, cautious. Someone else was in the warehouse. I met Wolfe's eyes. He had heard it too. For a moment we did not move. Wolfe's face was calm, but I knew him well enough to see the calculation. He was deciding whether to remain the armchair detective in a warehouse or to let his assistant earn his pay. I made the decision for both of us. I lifted my hand, palm out, and eased back from the table. I reached inside my coat, where my shoulder rig sat like a familiar argument. I did not draw yet. I just let my fingers rest on the grip. Wolfe's voice was low. Archie, he said, do not be reckless. Reckless is your hobby tonight, I whispered. I am just trying to keep you alive so you can be superior in the morning. The scrape came again, closer. Then a soft thump, like a crate bumped. Whoever it was had not expected company, or had, and was not pleased. I moved down the aisle, using the stacks for cover, stepping where the floorboards did not creak. Wolfe stayed back, which was good. If Wolfe tries to stalk anyone, the city issues a noise complaint. As I rounded the edge of a stack of crates marked glassware, I saw a figure, a man medium build, coat collar up, hat low. He was crouched near another pallet, hands busy with something that glinted. He turned his head slightly, as if he sensed the air change. I leveled my gun. "Hands up," I said. He froze. Then he did something I did not like. He smiled, quick and tight, and in that smile I saw not fear but recognition. He knew me, or he knew what I was. His hands rose slowly. In his right hand was a small metal syringe, the kind used for veterinary work, with a needle capped. In his left was a folded cloth. "Easy," he said. His voice was smooth, practiced. "This is not what it looks like." I took one step closer. "In my experience," I told him, "it is usually exactly what it looks like. Put it down." He glanced past me, toward the door, toward Wolfe. His eyes flickered, measuring distance. The man's gaze came back to me. "You are Goodwin," he said. "You should be home. Your boss does not like to leave his chair." "That is why you should not tempt me," I said. "Put the syringe down." He lowered it a fraction, then stopped, as if considering whether to obey. His face was half in shadow, and for a second I thought of Wolfe's remark about the shadow arriving first. This man was made of it. "You do not understand," he said. "If I leave it, someone will find it. Then they will know. And if you keep it," I said, "I will know." He gave a small breath that might have been a laugh. "You are fast," he said. "That is your reputation." "Thanks," I said. "I keep it polished." His eyes hardened. In the next instant he moved, not toward me, not away, to the side. Behind the pallet, I fired not to hit but to stop, and the bullet punched wood with a sharp crack. He vanished behind crates. I ran, not straight after him, because that is what gets you shot. I cut around, using stacks, listening, footsteps, quick, heading toward the far wall. There was a door there. I remembered seeing it when we entered. A side exit. I reached it just as it banged open. Cold street air rushed in. A figure darted through. I lunged, grabbed a coat sleeve, and felt fabric tear. My fingers caught something else, a strip of glossy paper. Green, it ripped free in my hand as the man yanked away and disappeared into the night beyond the warehouse. I stood in the doorway, gun raised, but he was gone, swallowed by the city's indifference. Behind me, Wolfe's footsteps approached with the reluctant heaviness of a man who would rather be appraising orchids than chasing shadows. "You allowed him to escape," Wolfe said. "I allowed him to leave a souvenir," I said, holding up the green strip. "And I prevented him from sticking me with a needle. I call it a win." Wolfe took the strip, examined it, and for the first time that night, I saw something like satisfaction touch his eyes. "Yes," he said softly, "he tore reality again. That is useful." I looked out at the dark street. "Useful does not bring back Graham Riddle," I said. "Or Harlan Sloan." "No," Wolfe agreed. "But it may bring us to the man who arranged them." A siren wailed somewhere in the distance, not coming closer, just reminding the night it had options. "We call Kramer now?" I asked. Wolfe's eyes lingered on the green strip and then lifted, as if he could see the whole city laid out like a map on his desk. "Yes," he said. "Now we call Inspector Kramer, and Archie, when he arrives, you will be courteous." I snorted. "Courtesy is my middle name." "I doubt it," Wolfe said. We stepped back into the warehouse, leaving the door ajar. The lamp still burned on the table, a small civilized light among crates and death. The papers lay waiting, full of codes and initials, like a language that wanted to be translated. Wolfe looked at the ledger again, then at me. "The case has come to us," he said. "Not in the manner I would have chosen, but in the manner that now exists, we will proceed." "From here," I said, "I would like to proceed to a telephone." Wolfe nodded once. "Yes," he said, "and then, Archie, we return to the brownstone." I have missed my chair. I stared at the bodies and the green seals and the torn scraps of whatever secret someone had tried to keep stitched tight. Outside, the city kept moving, as if nothing had happened. Inside, the truth had begun to whisper, and I had a feeling it was about to start shouting. Chapter 2. The lamp that spoke, the street lamp, hummed above the alley like a witness forced to stay awake. Its light struck the wall at a strange angle, making the shadow longer than it should be. Light betrays timing when it's moved, tilted, or forced to tell the wrong story. Wolfe crouched by the metal base and noticed a loosened bolt and fresh scratches. The night itself hadn't changed. The lighting had been edited. By the time Inspector Kramer arrived, the warehouse had filled with men who looked as if the city had issued them coats, fedoras, and bad moods. I had made the call from the nearest payphone, and I will say for the record that describing 2 corpses and a fleeing man with a syringe is not my favorite exercise. Kramer came in with Sergeant Pearlie Stebbins behind him and 2 uniforms. Kramer took one look at Nero Wolfe in the warehouse aisle and reacted as if Wolfe had personally arranged the murders to spoil his evening. "Wolfe," he growled, "what are you doing out of your hole? Assisting you." Wolfe said, polite as a judge. Kramer's eyes went to me. "Goodwin, why didn't you call sooner?" "We called as soon as we finished finding them," I said. 2 dead, 1 missing, and a lamp that buzzes like it has secrets. Kramer ignored my lamp and barked orders. A uniform went to the door. Another hovered by the table, remembering at the last instant that he was supposed to wait for the lab boys. "Who are they?" Kramer demanded. "Graham Riddle is in the alley," Wolfe said. "Harlan Sloan is here." Stebbins leaned in, eager. "Sloan from Haraway Logistics?" Wolfe's eyes stayed on Kramer. "Yes." Kramer's jaw worked. "You got a note," he said. "Yes," Wolfe replied. "Show it." "In due time," Wolfe said. Kramer's face reddened. "This is my case." "It is also my note," Wolfe said. "You may have it after you have behaved with minimal rationality." I stepped in before Kramer decided to arrest Wolfe for breathing. "Inspector, it asked Wolfe to meet Riddle here at 9. It said the police could not be trusted. It was signed Gayar. We got here and found him dead." Kramer snorted. "Police can't be trusted. That's cute. You see the guy who ran." "Enough to dislike him," I said. "Medium build. Coat, hat, quick feet, and he carried a syringe. He cared a lot about not leaving it behind." Stebbins cleared his throat. "A syringe could indicate narcotics, Inspector." Kramer shot him a look. "Thank you, Pearlie." "Outside." "The street lamp," Wolfe said. For a moment, Kramer looked as if Wolfe had suggested interrogating the sidewalk. Then he followed us out, because whatever else he is not stupid. The lamp at the corner hummed faintly. Wolfe crouched, a performance that would have sold tickets, and ran his fingers along the base. "There," he said. One bolt was not seated flush. The metal around it had fresh scratches, bright under the grime. On the pavement were tiny flakes of paint and a smear that might have been grease. "Somebody adjusted it," I said. "Yes," Wolfe said. "The head has been shifted slightly, but enough. The light is aimed more toward the warehouse wall to extend the shadow and distort the timing." Stebbins asked, "Why would anyone do that?" "Because the shadow was needed," Wolfe said. "A signal or a misdirection. It announced a presence before the man arrived." Kramer's stare went hard. "You're saying somebody tampered with a city street lamp to fool you?" "I am saying someone controlled the story told by light," Wolfe replied. Kramer blew out air. "That's crazy." "It is labor," Wolfe said. "It took tools and time and confidence that no patrolman would interfere." Kramer jabbed a finger at a uniform. "Get the city to check this lamp. Tell them it's evidence." Then he turned on Wolfe again. "Now show me the note." Wolfe's eyes held him. "In my house." Kramer's temper flared, then cooled into a scowl. He knew the argument and he knew the limits. "Get out of here," he snapped. "Go home. I'll call you when I need you." "You will call sooner than you think," Wolfe said. We left, while the police were still busy turning the warehouse into a festival of noise. Outside, a patrol car's red light smeared the bricks. New York was still New York, wet, indifferent, and full of people who believed that if they walked fast enough they could outrun trouble. In the taxi, Wolfe sat stiffly, as if the upholstery had insulted him. "Edited lighting," I said. "You were right. Somebody wanted that shadow." "Yes," Wolfe said. "Signal for who?" I asked. "Perhaps for someone watching," Wolfe said. "Or for the man with the syringe. The shadow may have indicated that we had arrived and that the moment was correct for action." Back at the brownstone, Fritz met us with an expression of controlled offense. Wolfe climbed the stairs instead of taking the elevator, which told me he was disturbed. In the office, the familiar smells steadied me: leather, paper, and cigars. Wolfe took his chair with an exhale that sounded like relief. I sat across from him. "We must identify the purpose of the meeting," Wolfe said. "Riddle asked you because the police couldn't be trusted." I said, "That suggests corruption or blackmail or desperation." Wolfe said, "Riddle was not timid. Yet he asked for privacy. That implies he believed a police officer might be involved or that someone could influence them." I frowned. "You think the Needle Man was a cop?" "Not necessarily," Wolfe said. "But someone with access and confidence, or a city worker. That is more plausible after the lamp." I thought of the papers. "The shipping list," I said. "Green Seal consignments. Riddle importing Sloan from Haraway Logistics. Initials all over it." Wolfe nodded. "Jar and Hex are dead. Meg remains tomorrow. You will visit Riddle Importing and learn everything you can. You will also attempt to determine who MK is." "While you tend orchids," I said. "Precisely," Wolfe replied. I leaned forward. "You think the documents were bait?" "Yes," Wolfe said. "The table, the lamp, the papers all arranged. Someone wanted them found. Since the note summoned me, it is bait for me." "Meaning they want you blamed," I said. "Or want you to expose something dangerous?" Wolfe's eyes sharpened. "Either, or both." The phone rang. I took it on the second ring. Kramer's voice came through, rougher than usual. "A patrolman found something near that street lamp. A canvas tool roll. City issue, wrenches, socket set, and it's stamped with initials." "What initials?" I asked. "MK," Kramer said. I looked at Wolfe. His cigar paused on its way to his mouth, then continued, slow. "MK on a city tool roll," I said into the phone. "Where was it?" "Behind a trash barrel near the corner," Kramer replied. "Like somebody ditched it in a hurry. Don't get in my way, Goodwin." "We never do," I said, and he hung up. I set the receiver down. "That is not subtle," I said. "No," Wolfe agreed. "It is a message. It says, 'Look here.' It also says the murderer is confident or careless," I said. "Confidence masquerading as carelessness," Wolfe said. "We must separate the genuine from the arranged." Wolfe rang for coffee and said, "Archie, we will review what is certain. That we had an appointment with a dead man," I said. "That we were expected," Wolfe corrected. "The lamp was altered in advance. The warehouse table was prepared in advance. Therefore, the killer arranged not only death but narrative." "We have 3 sets of initials," I said. "GRHs and MK." "Precisely," Wolfe said. "Tomorrow you will begin at Riddle Importing. You will learn who MK is, and you will learn what life depended on Riddle's speech." I slept badly. In the morning, Wolfe went upstairs to his plants as if crime were a rumor. At 9:30 I was on my way downtown. Riddle Importing was on West 27th, a floor above street level with a frosted glass door and gold letters. Inside, a reception desk was guarded by a tired woman with careful hair. "Mr. Riddle is not here," she said. "I noticed," I replied. "We had an appointment last night. He did not keep it. I need to speak to the man who runs things when he is away." After a short delay, she led me to Howard Lanning, a narrow man with sharp features and a tie knotted too tight. "You're Wolfe's man," he said. "That is the popular view," I said. "Did the police call you yet?" His eyes flickered. "Yes. They said he's dead." "They said right." I said, "Now tell me why he wanted Wolfe." Lanning looked at the window as if it might answer. "Graham was under pressure," he said at last. "He handled certain arrangements personally. Green Seal shipments, priority routing, No questions. No questions usually means big answers, I said. Who is Meg? He swallowed. Maris Kane, compliance. She discovered something in the records. Graham tried to protect her. Protect her where? I asked. He hesitated, then said, She disappeared 3 days ago. That tightened the case. Kidnapped, I said. I don't know, he muttered. You do, I said, and you are afraid of it. Did Graham mention Haraway Logistics, Harlan Sloan? Yes, Lanning said. Sloan was our contact there. Anyone else involved? I asked. Lanning's voice dropped. A man from the city, lighting division, Martin Kester. Graham met him privately. I felt my stomach go hard. Describe him. He did, and it fit too well. Medium build, quick smile. Eyes that measured distance. I stood. Thank you, I said. If Maris Kane is alive, we will find her. Outside, the March wind had teeth. I found a payphone and called Wolfe. We have our MK, I said. 2 of them. Maris Kane missing 3 days, and a city lighting man named Martin Kester. Lanning's description matches the man who ran from me. Wolfe was quiet a moment, then said, Return at once. Do not confront Kester alone. I wasn't planning to invite him to dinner, I said. But Wolfe, time matters. Yes, Wolfe said. Therefore we must act quickly, but not foolishly. I went back to Wolfe's house because that is where facts are digested into conclusions. On the way I stopped at Maris Kane's address, a narrow building on East 68th with a doorman who looked like he had seen every excuse in the city and had rejected them all. I'm a friend, I told him, and he smiled without humor. Everybody's a friend, he said. I showed him my card and leaned in just enough to make it clear I could become a nuisance. Miss Kane is missing, I said. If someone comes here asking questions, you will want to remember them. That shifted him. She hasn't been home in days, he said. A man came yesterday, said he was her cousin. He had a small tool bag. What did he look like? I asked. The doorman described Martin Kester again. Without knowing his name, the tool bag detail made it worse. Any car? I asked. City truck, he said. White. 2 men in it. They acted like they belonged. Back at the brownstone, Wolfe listened without interrupting while I reported the doorman and the city truck. When I finished, he sat back and closed his eyes for a moment. Cigar smoke, drifting like a thoughtful cloud. A city truck provides legitimacy, he said. And access. A woman who believes she is speaking with officials may comply. Or be carried, I said. Wolfe opened his eyes. We will not assume she is dead. Riddle would not have sought me merely to avenge a corpse. He sought to prevent one. And he knows shipping. That puts him close to the Green Seal scheme. Yes, Wolfe said, but we still lack motive. We must learn what Miss Kane discovered. That file is probably locked up at Riddle's office, I said. Not if the conspirators are competent, Wolfe replied. It will have been removed, unless Mr. Lanning is more loyal than fearful. Wolfe ignored that. Archie, contact Saul Panzer. Have him learn everything about Martin Kester, residence, employment, associates, habits. Also have him learn the structure of the city lighting division and whether any trucks were assigned to Kester. Saul will love it, I said. He enjoys city paperwork almost as much as Stebbins enjoys the moon. Wolfe's lip twitched, while Panzer works. You will return to Riddle importing this afternoon. You will obtain copies of any shipping records, referencing green seals. Do not ask permission. If necessary, use persuasion. Persuasion, I said. I have a whole drawer of it. And Archie, Wolfe added, take your gun. It's already my closest companion, I said, and I meant it. As I left the office to make calls, I glanced through the front curtains at West 35th Street. A city truck rolled past in the traffic, white and ordinary, and for a second I imagined its driver looking up at our windows. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was Kester. In this case, even the light outside felt adjustable. Chapter 3. Angles tell the truth. Wolfe paced the alley slowly, studying the wall like a map of quiet lies. He traced the direction of the shadow and measured where the light should fall. 3 degrees of rotation in the lamp could shift a shadow several feet. Enough to make someone appear earlier or guilty sooner. Angles never forget what someone tries to rearrange. If you ever want proof that Nero Wolfe is capable of physical exertion, do not ask him to chase a man. Get him angry at an inaccuracy. By mid-morning, he had decided that the street lamp on Riddle Street had insulted reason, and reason is his private religion. He had eaten breakfast with his usual discipline, grapefruit and coffee, then gone upstairs to the orchids at 9, as if the city had not produced 2 corpses for our entertainment. At 11 he came down in a brown suit that looked as if it had been designed by a committee of dignified bankers, and announced, with the air of a man declaring war on a minor nation, that we were going back to the alley. I stared at him. "You are leaving the house again?" "Do not feign astonishment," Wolfe said. "I am going to examine a simple mechanical alteration. It will take minimal time." "Minimal time," I said. "That is what you call it when it only ruins half the day." He ignored me and went to the hall closet for his hat, as if he had done this every day for years. Fritz watched from the kitchen doorway, his expression suggesting that civilization was sliding downhill. In the car, Wolfe sat rigidly, not from fear but from contempt for New York traffic. I drove because Wolfe believes a steering wheel is a vulgar instrument. We turned onto Riddle Street and found the alley already stripped of drama. The police had done their work, which means they had taken away the bodies, left chalk marks, and allowed the street to resume pretending it was innocent. The warehouse service door was padlocked again, now with a tag that said it was evidence and would be prosecuted if it moved. The street lamp still hummed, indifferent and official. Wolfe got out and stood in the alley mouth, facing the brick wall where the shadow had performed its little trick the night before. He did not speak for nearly a minute. He simply looked, eyes moving from the lamp to the wall to the pavement and back again. When he finally moved, he did it with the slow patience of a man reading a difficult paragraph. "Observe," he said. I stood beside him and observed, because in Wolfe's vocabulary it is not a request, it is an order dressed in manners. He stepped closer to the wall and pointed with his cane, which he had brought for legitimacy. "The light falls there," he said. "You see the hard edge on the mortar line. The lamp head has been returned to its proper position by the city crew or by the police. But last night, the edge would have fallen differently." "I remember," I said. "Longer shadow, like a bad alibi." Wolfe nodded once. "A shadow is an instrument. It is the projection of an object on a surface. Alter the light source, and you alter the projection. It is elementary geometry." "You are about to lecture," I said. "I am about to calculate," Wolfe corrected. He paced slowly, counting steps under his breath. He stopped, turned, and paced back. Then he crouched again by the lamp base, which in broad daylight looked less sinister and more like a municipal nuisance. He ran his fingers over the metal, and I saw him catch at something tiny on the edge of the base plate. He lifted it delicately. It was a sliver, nearly invisible, a thread of metal. "Shavings," I said, "from a tool." "Yes," Wolfe said, "from a bolt being loosened and tightened. Fresh, the city's maintenance crew would have left shavings too. But these are not recent enough to be from this morning. They have already begun to oxidize." I blinked. "You can tell that by looking at them." "I can tell you have not looked at enough shavings," Wolfe said. He stood and studied the lamp again. 3 degrees, he murmured. "Perhaps less." 3 degrees of rotation, I said. "And the shadow moves several feet." "Exactly," Wolfe said. "And that shift is not merely theatrical. It creates a false sequence. It can make a man's shadow arrive early, which suggests the man arrived early. Or it can make a second figure's shadow overlap the first, which creates confusion." I rubbed my jaw. "So the lamp is part of the trap. But why trap you? Why not just kill Riddle and Sloane and walk away?" Wolfe's eyes stayed on the wall. "Because Riddle asked for help, because he intended to speak, because he had something he believed I could accomplish, and someone else could not allow." You think Riddle planned to hand you evidence, I said. Or information, Wolfe replied. The ledger in the warehouse was arranged as a crude lure, but the lamp suggests sophistication, that contradiction is instructive. Two different brains, I said. Possibly, Wolfe admitted. Or one brain that enjoys variety. I looked up and down the street. In daylight it was hard to imagine the menace of the night before, but the city is good at keeping its weapons tucked away until it needs them. Wolfe, I said, we are standing here like we are auditioning for a civil engineering board. What do we do with your 3 degrees? We verify, Wolfe said. How? I asked. He turned his eyes to me. By measurement. Archie, retrieve a tape measure from the car. I did. I also retrieved a small notebook and pencil, because if Wolfe is going to calculate, he will expect me to remember numbers, and I have learned that is dangerous. We spent 15 minutes doing something I never expected to do with Nero Wolfe, namely measuring the angle and distance of a street lamp's light against a wall like a pair of obsessive boys. Wolfe had me stand at certain points while he aligned his sight with the lamp head. He had me measure distances between mortar lines and chalk marks on the pavement that the police had forgotten to wash away. He had me hold the tape measure at shoulder height, then at knee height. At one point a passerby slowed down to stare. Wolfe stared back until the man resumed his business. That is Wolfe's gift. He can repel curiosity by sheer mass. When we were done, Wolfe stood motionless, eyes half-lidded, running the numbers in his head. Then he spoke. 3 degrees, he said. It is consistent with the observed shift. It would move the shadow edge approximately 4 feet along that wall, given the height and distance. 4 feet, I said. Enough to make a man's shadow appear before he rounds the corner. Yes, Wolfe said, and enough to allow another man to stand near the wall, unseen, while his shadow performs the first act. So someone stood there, I said. Yes, Wolfe said again more firmly, and that person wished the shadow to be seen. I looked at the lamp. City lighting man could do it, I said. Martin Kester. Wolfe's expression did not change, but his eyes sharpened. Or someone with access to tools and knowledge, a city worker, a contractor, or someone who stole such tools, like the tool roll Kramer found with initials MK, I said. Wolfe nodded. Yes. I shifted my weight. But we have 2 MKs, Maris Kane and Martin Kester. That isn't coincidence. It's camouflage. Wolfe's mouth tightened. It is a deliberate convenience. The killer, or someone involved, wishes the initials to point in 2 directions. That provides camouflage. Or it frames Maris Kane, I said. Missing woman, initials on tools, looks like she tampered with the lamp, then vanished. Wolfe's eyes flicked to me. Do you believe Miss Kane has the strength to loosen and rotate a street lamp assembly in the dark on a public street without being noticed? I shrugged. Some women do, perhaps, Wolfe said. But the question is not strength, it is opportunity. She disappeared 3 days ago, according to Mr. Lanning. Yet the lamp was altered last night. Unless she returned from her disappearance to adjust a street lamp, it is unlikely. Meaning Kester, I said. Meaning Kester. Wolfe agreed. A sound behind us made me turn. A white city truck had pulled to the curb down the street. 2 men climbed out, both wearing dark jackets with city insignia. One carried a clipboard. My hand went automatically toward my coat, not for a gun but for my patience. The men walked toward us. The older one, with a thick neck, tried to look official and succeeded only in looking tired. The younger one had a face I recognized too easily because it had smiled at me in the warehouse. Martin Kester, he, approached with that same tight smile and stopped a few feet away. Afternoon, he said. City lighting. We got a report about tampering. You folks with the police? Wolfe looked at him as if Kester were a fly that had landed on a souffle. We are citizens, Wolfe said. We are observing. Kester's eyes flickered over Wolfe. Then to me, recognition passed across his face quickly, then he smoothed it away. You, he said, you were at Haraway Warehouse. I smiled back, showing teeth. That's right, you ran. The older man's head snapped toward Kester. What's that? Nothing, Kester said quickly. He turned to Wolfe. Sir, this area's active investigation. You shouldn't be messing around near evidence. Wolfe did not move. I am not messing, he said. I am thinking. There is a distinction. Kester's smile tightened. We need to inspect the lamp base, standard procedure. Wolfe's eyes remained steady. Proceed, he said. But do not touch the wall. That is not procedure. Kester hesitated, then crouched by the base with exaggerated care. His hand moved toward the bolts. He was wearing work gloves, the kind that hide fingerprints and do not raise suspicion. I watched his hands, and I watched his eyes. He glanced toward the alley mouth, then toward the street, the quick assessment of a man who wants to know how much room he has. The older city worker stood behind him, clipboard held like a shield. We're supposed to tighten and seal it, the man said. Polis said it was messed with. Kester nodded without looking back. Yeah, I'll handle it. Wolfe's voice was calm. You were here last night. Kester's hand froze for a fraction, then resumed moving. I was not, he said. You were, Wolfe repeated, not arguing, stating. Kester looked up, eyes hard. You don't know that. Wolfe's gaze was as steady as the stone steps of his brownstone. Your shoes, he said. They have a fine grey grit embedded in the sole. It is not common street dirt. It is crushed brick dust mixed with lime, the residue from warehouse alley pavement recently scraped and swept. The same composition is on the ground here, and it adheres particularly after rain. Therefore you have been in this alley since last night's rain. Kester's mouth opened slightly, then closed. He pushed himself upright. The older man looked confused, then uneasy. That's ridiculous, Kester said. I work all over. Not in this alley, Wolfe said. Unless you were called. Were you called? Kester's smile returned, but it had lost warmth. We got a call this morning, he said. We came. My own hand rested where it could become unfriendly quickly. The older worker cleared his throat. Look, mister, we're just doing our job. Wolfe's eyes did not leave Kester. Your colleague may be, Wolfe said. You are not. Kester's jaw tightened. You should go home, he said. This is city business. And murder is not, I asked. Funny, I always thought murder was everybody's business. Kester's gaze snapped to me. You should mind your own, he said. I am, I said. My own is staying alive. Wolfe spoke softly, and his softness made it sharper. Mr. Kester, you adjusted this lamp. I did not, Kester said. You did, Wolfe said again, with the same certainty. You did it to alter the shadow on that wall. You did it because you wanted an observer, perhaps concealed in the alley, to have a signal, or you wanted the shadow to mislead, to imply a man's earlier presence. Kester laughed once. Short. You're a nut, he said. You're telling me I'm some kind of mastermind because of a shadow. Wolfe's mouth tightened. No, he said. I am telling you that you are a technician who made a technical adjustment for a criminal purpose. That is not mastery, it is servility. That hit. Kester's eyes flared. For an instant the mask slipped, and I saw anger real and hot. The older worker stepped back. Kester, he muttered. What the hell is this? Kester snapped his head. Shut up, he said. The older man's eyes widened. He took another step back, suddenly very interested in being somewhere else. That was enough for me. I took out my badge wallet, the one that opens doors, and flipped it. Listen, I said. You can either talk here politely, or we can talk downtown with Kramer shouting in your ear, your choice. Kester's eyes went to the badge, then back to my face. He smiled again, but it had regained its tightness. You're not a cop, he said. I'm not, I said, but I have a way of making cops appear. Wolfe's voice was mild. You have already made one appear, Mr. Kester. Inspector Kramer will be pleased to see you again. Kester's jaw worked. He glanced down the street toward the truck. He could run, But running from daylight is harder than running from a warehouse. Too many eyes, too much room for trouble. I don't know what you people think you know, he said. I'm here to fix a lamp, Wolfe nodded. Then fix it, he said. Tighten the bolts, seal it, and then tell me where Maris Kane is. The older worker made a startled sound. Maris Kane? Kester's face went blank for an instant. Then he recovered with a glare. I don't know any Maris Kane. You do, Wolfe said. Riddle Importing Compliance. She discovered something in shipping records. She disappeared. You are involved in Green Seal consignments, therefore you know her. Kester's hand twitched again toward his pocket, and I decided we had played enough chess in the street. All right, I said. We are done, Wolfe. Step back. Wolfe did not like being told to step back. He did it anyway, which told me he had also seen the twitch. I moved closer to Kester, keeping my voice low. Take your hand out of your pocket, I said. Kester's eyes hardened. Or what? Or you will learn that shadows are not the only thing that can arrive early, I said. For a second the street held its breath. Then Kester's hand came out slowly, empty. He spread both hands, happy. Moderately, I said. Now tell us why your tool roll with initials Man K was found behind a trash barrel last night. Kester snorted. My tools get stolen all the time. Not stamped with your initials, Wolfe said. That stamp is not standard. It is personal. Kester's gaze darted. You think I stamped it? Wolfe's eyes were cold. I think you wish those initials to be found, because they point to you and to her. A convenient ambiguity. Kester's smile vanished. You're making stories, he said. Stories require imagination, Wolfe replied. I require only angles. At that moment, a patrol car turned onto the street, slow, routine, not summoned by us, not dramatic, just doing its rounds. Kester saw it, and something in him shifted. The calculation changed. He was not afraid of me. He was not afraid of Wolfe. He was afraid of police proximity, because police proximity means unpredictability. He took one step backward toward the truck, and his voice softened. Look, he said. I got nothing to do with those deaths. I didn't kill anybody. You did not answer, Wolfe said. Where is Maris Kane? Kester's face tightened. I don't know, he said again, but it came out too fast, too rehearsed. The older city worker, who had been edging away, suddenly spoke, voice shaky. Kester, you told me last week you were working a private job. You said it paid cash. You said the lady's name was Kane. Kester spun on him. You idiot, he hissed. The older man flinched. I didn't mean nothing, he said, but you said her name. Kester's eyes flicked back to us. His face had changed, less controlled. A man cornered in daylight becomes a different animal. Wolfe's voice was steady. Thank you, he said to the older worker. Your honesty may save a life. Kester's chest rose and fell. He looked toward the patrol car. It was still a block away. He looked at the alley. He looked at the truck. He made his decision. He bolted. I went after him, of course. That is also my job, and I do not like letting a man with a syringe hobby keep his freedom. But he was fast, and he had a head start. He darted around the truck, shoved the older worker aside, and sprinted down the street toward a side lane. I ran, people turned to look. A man shouted something useless. The patrol car's driver noticed the commotion and hit the siren, which in New York serves mostly to announce that the city has decided to participate. Kester cut into the lane and disappeared behind stacked pallets outside a loading dock. I followed, gun out now because daylight does not make needles less sharp. He was there, crouched, eyes bright, hand up, not a syringe this time. A small canister, palm-sized, with a nozzle. Stay back, he said. What is that? I asked. Something you don't want, he said, voice tight. Wolfe's voice came from behind me, calm and maddening. Archie, do not provoke him. I half turned. Wolfe had followed, lumbering but determined, face composed as if he were walking to the dining room. He stopped at the mouth of the lane, taking in the scene, eyes sharp. Wolfe, I snapped, This is not your habitat. It has become my problem, Wolfe said. Kester's eyes flicked to Wolfe, then back to me. His finger tightened on the canister. Listen, I said. You can run all day, but you cannot outrun radios. Tell us where Maris Kane is, and maybe you get to keep breathing without handcuffs cutting into your wrists. Kester laughed, harsh. You think I'm the big fish, he said. I'm nothing. I'm a guy who turns bolts. You want the big fish, go look at Haraway. Go look at the guys with offices. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. Haraway Logistics, he said. You worked for them. Kester's jaw clenched. I did jobs, he said. I did what I was told. I didn't kill anybody. But you altered the lamp, Wolfe said. And you know where she is. Kester's eyes darted, searching for an exit that did not exist. The patrol siren grew louder. Tell us, I said. Now. Kester's shoulders sagged a fraction, and for a moment I thought he might crack. Then his expression hardened again, and I realized he was not choosing between truth and lies. He was choosing between two fears. She's alive, he blurted. All right, she's alive. They're keeping her. They said if she talked, she'd end up like Riddle. Where? Wolfe said, voice flat. Kester swallowed. A place in Queens, he said. Warehouse, not Haraway. A subcontractor yard. Name, Wolfe demanded. Kester shook his head, desperate. I don't know the name. I only drove there once. They blindfolded her, not me. They told me not to ask. Description, Wolfe said. Kester hesitated, then spoke quickly, like throwing rocks from a sinking boat. Near the river, chain, link fence. Big sign with a bird on it. Same bird as the pin on Sloane's tie. That hit me. A bird emblem, corporate. Not a gull, not a hawk. Maybe a stylized thing that looks like both when you need it to. Wolfe's eyes sharpened. Haraway's special handling mark, he said. Kester's face twisted. I don't know, he said. It was a bird. I don't know what it means. The patrol car skidded to a stop at the end of the lane. Two uniforms jumped out, hands on holsters, eyes wide at the sight of me with a gun and Wolfe standing like a statue. One of them shouted, Police, drop it. Kester's eyes went wild. He raised the canister. I fired, not at him, but at the canister. My bullet struck it, and the metal spun, clanging on the pavement. A sharp smell burst out, bitter and chemical. Kester coughed and staggered backward. The uniforms rushed him, and within seconds he was on the ground, wrists cuffed, face pressed to pavement. The older worker from the truck stood in the street, pale, looking like a man who wished he had taken a different job. I holstered my gun and turned to Wolfe. He was calm, but his eyes were bright. He had extracted what he needed. You heard him. I said, Queens, near the river, bird sign. Wolfe nodded once. Yes, he said, angles lead to places, and places lead to people. A uniform approached, suspicious. Who are you? He demanded. Wolfe looked at him with an expression that could chill soup. Nero Wolfe, he said. The uniform blinked. The detective. Wolfe did not answer that. He did not need to. I showed my credentials, explained fast, and within minutes, Kramer arrived, red-faced, pushing through the small crowd that had gathered to enjoy free excitement. Kramer took one look at Kester in cuffs and then at us. What did you do now? He barked. Improved your day, I said. He talked. Not much, but enough. Maris Kane is alive, Queens, warehouse near the river, chain, link, bird sign. Kramer's face tightened. He grabbed Kester by the collar. Where? He growled. Kester's mouth was swollen from the pavement. He spat blood and said, I told them what I know. Kramer shook him once. You'll tell me again. Wolfe stepped forward. Inspector, he said, you will not kill him. You may need him. Kramer glared at Wolfe. Don't tell me how to do my job. I am not, Wolfe said. I am telling you how to preserve your opportunity. Kramer stared, then released Kester with a shove. He turned to me. Goodwin, get back to your boss's house. I'll handle this. You will handle it, Wolfe said. by running toward the warehouse like a bull toward a red cloth. And if Miss Kane is there, you may frighten her captors into harming her. Kramer's face darkened. Then what do you want? Wolfe's voice stayed calm. I want you to proceed intelligently, use surveillance, confirm enter with advantage. Kramer made a sound of disgust. You want to run my raid? I want Miss Kane alive, Wolfe replied. That is the difference. Kramer hesitated, and I could see the battle in him. Pride versus reason. Pride usually wins with Kramer, but sometimes reason gets a toe in the door. All right, Kramer snapped. I'll do it my way with a little of yours. Now get out of here. We returned to the brownstone, and Wolfe, once seated in his chair, looked almost content. He rang for beer, and Fritz brought it with the air of a man serving civilization back to its rightful owner. I sat opposite Wolfe, notebook open. We got something, I said. Kester tied it to Haraway with the bird emblem, and he confirmed Maris Kane is alive. Yes, Wolfe said. And we learned something else. What? I asked. Wolfe lifted his glass. Kester is not the architect. He is a tool. He fears someone more than he fears the police. That someone arranged the lamp, arranged the ledger, arranged the narrative. The big fish, I said. Wolfe nodded. A person with authority, with resources, and with a taste for arrangement. Also someone who anticipated that the initials MK would confuse the investigation. I frowned. If Maris Kane is the real MK, then the tool role was meant to implicate her, but she was already missing. That makes it sloppy. Not sloppy, Wolfe said. Clever. It makes her disappear seem like guilt. It discourages sympathy. It discourages a search. I leaned back. So once we find her, she tells us what she saw in the shipping records. That gives motive. Yes, Wolfe said. And then we find who profits from Green Seal consignments. I tapped my pencil. Smuggling, I said. Contraband, or something valuable, hidden in legitimate shipments. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. Possibly, but we must not leap. We will wait for facts. The phone rang, I answered. Kramer's voice came through, brisk. We found the warehouse, Queens Riverfront Yard, bird sign. We're going in. My stomach tightened. Kramer, I said. Wolfe said not to rush. I'm not rushing, Kramer snapped. I'm moving. There's a difference. We'll call if we get her. He hung up. I looked at Wolfe. He is moving, I said. Wolfe's face remained composed, but his eyes were hard. Then we will prepare, he said. Prepare for what? I asked. Wolfe's voice was quiet. For the possibility that Miss Kane will not be there when Kramer arrives, for the possibility that her captors anticipated this, for the possibility that the true architect has already arranged the next shadow. I sat still for a moment, feeling the brownstone's solidity around us, the familiar comfort of books and leather and Fritz's cooking, drifting faintly from the kitchen. Outside, New York moved, noisy and indifferent. Angles never forget, I said. Wolfe nodded once. No, he said, and neither do I. Chapter 4. The body that arrived late the victim lay near the back door of a warehouse, stiff and silent. But the blood pattern told Wolfe something different. The body had traveled. It had been placed here after death, arranged carefully for the alley to witness. A matchbook in the victim's pocket pointed toward a small diner nearby. But Wolfe suspected the diner was only another shadow in the story. If there is one thing New York does well, it is to deliver news at the worst possible moment, and with the smallest possible courtesy. I had just set down Wolfe's second bottle of beer, and was preparing to tell him that he should consider eating something besides superiority, when the doorbell rang with the kind of insistence that meant either a bill collector or a cop. It was a cop, which is usually worse. Sergeant Pearlie Stebbins stood on the stoop with his hat in his hand, and an expression that wanted to be grave, but could not resist looking mildly pleased to be involved. Good evening, Archie, he said. Pearlie, I said. If you are here to arrest Wolfe for thinking, you are late. I am not here to arrest anyone, he said quickly. Inspector Kramer asked me to come. There is a development. Wolfe's voice came from the office, deep and impatient. "Mr. Goodwin, do not conduct a social gathering in the hall." I stepped aside. "Come on in," I told Stebbins. "If you say the word development in this house, Wolfe expects it to bloom like an orchid." Stebbins followed me into the office, eyes flicking around as if the books might contain a confession. Wolfe sat in his chair, massive and composed, cigar angled like a statement. "Sergeant," Wolfe said. "Speak." Stebbins cleared his throat. "Inspector Kramer and the men went to the Queen's Yard." "And?" Wolfe said. "They found it empty," Stebbins replied. "No Miss Kane, no captors, just a locked office and some old crates. They did find evidence that someone had been there recently. A blanket, a coffee cup, duct tape." I felt my jaw tighten. "She was moved," I said. "Yes," Stebbins said. "Inspector Kramer is not pleased." Wolfe's eyes narrowed. "Of course not. Did he find a trail?" Stebbins hesitated. "Not much. But there is more. While they were still there, a call came in. Another body was found." Wolfe did not move. "Where?" he asked. "Back door of Haraway warehouse on Riddle Street," Stebbins said. I stared at him. "That is where we started," I said. "You're telling me somebody dropped a fresh corpse at the same warehouse after the police cleared it?" Stebbins nodded, looking unhappy now. "Yes, the patrolman said it was placed near the service door, arranged so it would be seen." Wolfe's cigar paused. "Arranged," he repeated, and the word had weight. Stebbins added, "The inspector wants you to stay out of it." Wolfe looked at him. "That is irrelevant." Stebbins swallowed. "He asked me to bring you something." He took a small envelope from his coat pocket and held it out. I took it and opened it. Inside was a photograph, black and white, taken with harsh flash. A body lay on its side near a warehouse door. The face was turned toward the camera, eyes open. The man was not Graham Riddle or Harlan Sloane. He was Howard Lanning. I felt the room go colder, Riddle importing. Wolfe's eyes hardened. "Yes," he said softly. "The witness who spoke to you," Stebbins said. "Inspector Kramer thought you should know because you talked to him this morning." "Kramer is learning," I muttered. Wolfe's gaze fixed on the photograph. "Sergeant," he said, "tell Inspector Kramer that I will come to view the scene." Stebbins blinked. "He said you were not to." Wolfe's voice was calm, and therefore final. "He is not my employer. You may tell him I am coming, or you may allow him the pleasure of discovering it when I arrive." Stebbins looked at me with a helpless expression, then at Wolfe. "All right," he said, "but he will be angry." "I will endure it," Wolfe said. Stebbins left. I stared at Wolfe. "You are going back to that street," I said. "Yes," Wolfe replied. "You just got back," I said. "Your chair is still warm. My chair will endure," Wolfe said. "This is not about comfort, Archie. It is about pattern. A third corpse placed at the same location is not happenstance. It is communication." "Communication from the big fish," I said. Wolfe nodded once. "Yes." 20 minutes later we were in the car. New York at dusk was wet and bright, streetlights reflecting on pavement like a city wearing cheap jewelry. Wolfe sat silent, thinking, which is what he does when he is not talking. I drove and watched the sidewalks for white city trucks, because after today I did not trust anything that looked municipal. On Riddle Street, there were police cars again, men again, tape again. The warehouse door wore evidence tags like a decoration it had not asked for. The street lamp hummed, and I hated it for being so ordinary. Kramer saw us and came barreling over, coat flapping, face red, eyes like he wanted to bite. "Wolfe," he barked, "you're not supposed to be here." Wolfe's voice was mild. "I am here." Kramer's jaw worked. "This isn't your case." "It has become entangled with me," Wolfe said. Kramer glared at me. "Goodwin, you brought him." "I did not carry him," I said. "He walked. You should be proud." Kramer made a sound like he swallowed a nail. "All right," he snapped. "Look, the body was found 10 minutes ago. Don't touch anything. Don't interfere. Wolfe did not promise. He stepped under the street lamp's light, moving toward the service door where the body lay. I followed, because if Wolfe insists on being out in the wild, somebody has to make sure he does not step in evidence or get shot by a nervous patrolman. Howard Lanning lay on his back, arms at his sides, legs straight. He had been placed with care, like a prop in a display. His face was pale and slack, mouth slightly open. There was blood, but not much. A dark smear on the pavement near his head, and a thin trail that did not match his position. Wolfe's eyes went to the smear first, then to the trail, then back to the body. "This is incorrect," he said. Kramer bristled. "What do you mean incorrect?" Wolfe did not look at him. "The blood pattern," he said. "There is a smear, and there is a narrow line leading toward the street, then stopping. Yet the body is clean beneath. He did not die here." Kramer's eyes narrowed. He crouched, reluctantly granting that Wolfe might see something. "The lab boys will handle that." Wolfe's voice remained calm. "Your lab boys will describe the blood." "I have described it. The conclusion is simple. He was killed elsewhere, transported, then placed here after death." I bent to look closer. Wolfe was right. The blood at the back of Lanning's head looked like it had been pressed against something. Then dragged, the thin line on the pavement was not a pool bleeding outward. It was a trail left by movement. "He arrived late," I said. Wolfe glanced at me. "Yes," he said. "The scene needed a third act, and the author delivered it." Kramer's eyes were hard. "You saying somebody staged this to mess with us?" Wolfe turned slightly, finally acknowledging him. "I am saying someone is controlling what you see. First the lamp, then the warehouse table, now a body placed to be discovered. Each is arranged for witness." Kramer's face darkened. "And why here again?" Wolfe's eyes went to the wall where the shadow had played. "Because this alley has become a theater," he said, "and because the killer wishes to suggest continuity. He wishes us to connect these deaths to this location, and therefore to a particular story." Kramer snorted. "What story?" Wolfe did not answer immediately. He looked down at Lanning's coat, then at the pockets. He said, "Archie, you want me to search him," I said. "Kramer will love that." Kramer started to protest, then stopped. He knew that if he ordered me away, Wolfe would stand and stare until the evidence grew stale out of spite. He jerked a hand. "Fine," he said, "quick, and don't take anything." "I never take," I said. "I borrow." I crouched by Lanning's body. His coat was buttoned, his tie straightened. Someone had tried to make him presentable, which is a peculiar courtesy. I slid my fingers into his inside breast pocket and found a wallet. Then something else, stiff cardboard, a matchbook. I held it up. It was from a diner, cheap, red and white print. Lucy's Lunch, open all night. Address, corner of Riddle and 9th. I glanced at Wolfe. "Diner nearby," I said. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. "Yes," he said. "A pointer." Kramer leaned in, suspicious. "That mean he was there before he died?" Wolfe's voice was dry. "It may mean he was there. It may mean someone wishes us to go there." I turned the matchbook over. There was a small grease smudge on the back, and a faint impression, as if someone had pressed a pen hard against paper while writing on top of it. I rubbed it with my thumb, then held it at an angle under the street lamp. Letters appeared in the sheen, reversed and shallow. I felt my stomach tighten again. "Wolfe," I said quietly. He leaned closer. His eyes took it in, and the muscles around his mouth tightened. "Of course," he said. The initials again. Kramer's face reddened. "Got 'em it," he growled. "That's your lighting guy, or our missing woman," I said. Kramer jabbed a finger at me. "Enough with the missing woman. She's a victim." Wolfe's eyes flicked to him. "Yes," he said. "And the killer uses her initials as camouflage." Kramer snapped. "We're going to Lucy's now." Wolfe did not move. "No," he said. Kramer stared. "No, no," Wolfe repeated. "Not as you intend. The matchbook is an invitation. The author wishes you to rush toward it. I prefer not to dance on command." Kramer's face went purple. "Wolfe, this is police work." Wolfe's voice remained calm. It is also intelligence. If you rush into Lucy's with a squad, you will find frightened waitresses and nothing else. If you go quietly, you may see what is true. Kramer's jaw worked. He glanced toward the street. A couple of uniforms were already looking eager, like dogs at a door. Wolfe said, "Inspector, if your priority is Miss Kane alive, you will restrain your impulse for spectacle." Kramer hesitated. That was the only opening Wolfe needed. Wolfe continued, "Send one man, plainclothes. To Lucy's, have him sit, eat, listen. Do not frighten the room. Meanwhile, you will allow Mr. Goodwin and me to consider Mr. Lanning's death." Kramer glared, but his anger had shifted to calculation. "All right," he snapped. "Stebbins, go to Lucy's quiet. See what you see." Stebbins, hovering nearby, looked startled but pleased. "Yes, Inspector," he said, and hurried off. Kramer turned back to Wolfe. "Now what about Lanning?" Wolfe's gaze went to the blood trail again. "He was moved," he said. "That implies a vehicle. A small truck would suffice. A city truck would suffice." Kramer's eyes narrowed. "You think Kester's crew did it?" Wolfe shook his head. "Kester is in custody. This corpse arrived after your raid, therefore the killer has other means." I looked up at the street lamp. "Or other workers," I said. "Other city access." Wolfe nodded. "Yes, a network," Kramer grunted. "We already checked Haraway. They're cooperating." Wolfe's eyes sharpened. "Cooperating is not the same as innocent." Kramer scowled. "You got a name?" Wolfe's voice was quiet. "Not yet, but we have a motive emerging. Green Seal Consignments Compliance Officer discovers irregularities. 2 men linked to shipping dye. A third witness is killed and displayed. That suggests a smuggling operation protected by violence." Kramer's mouth tightened. "Smuggling what?" Wolfe's gaze went briefly distant, as if he were looking through the brick wall into the warehouse and beyond. "Something valuable enough to kill for," he said, "and discreet enough to hide in legitimate cargo." Kramer muttered. "Narcotics." "Possibly," Wolfe said. "But I am reluctant to assume. We must locate Miss Kane. She holds the specific." Kramer stepped closer, voice low. "Wolfe, you play games, and people die." Wolfe's eyes met his steadily. "Inspector," he said, "people die when you rush blindly. I am preventing that." Kramer stared, then turned away sharply. "Lab boys," he barked, "get photos, bag everything, and check that diner, like I said." We stood back while the technicians did their work. Wolfe watched with an expression that suggested he would rather be watching orchids grow, which is a fair sentiment. I watched the street. The city kept moving. A bus groaned by. A couple walked past the police tape and pretended not to see. Somewhere a radio played. New York does not pause. When we returned to the brownstone, Wolfe went straight to the office and sat as if reclaiming territory. Fritz, sensing atmosphere, brought beer and sandwiches without being asked. He set them down with a look at Wolfe that said he disapproved of homicide, interfering with dinner. Wolfe picked up his sandwich, then set it down untouched. "Mr. Lanning's death is instructive," he said. "It instructs me that I should start carrying 2 guns, I said. Wolfe ignored that. "He spoke to you this morning. He disclosed Maris Kane's identity and her disappearance. Therefore the killer concluded he was a leak." "Or the killer was watching the office," I said. "Watched me go in." "Yes," Wolfe said. "Surveillance is likely. That means our opponent is organized. Also, he chose to place Lanning's body at Haraway Warehouse, not at Riddle Importing. That choice is deliberate." "Because Haraway ties to the bird emblem," I said, "and to Sloan." Wolfe nodded. "Yes. It emphasizes Haraway. It invites the police to focus there, but the author of this narrative wishes focus to be misdirected. The diner matchbook is similar. It points nearby, a simple trail, but the impression of initials on the matchbook suggests it was planted." "You think Lanning never went to Lucy's?" I said. "I think the matchbook was inserted into his pocket after death," Wolfe said. "It is too convenient, too theatrical." "Then why Lucy's?" I asked. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. Because someone wishes us to look in a place where there are many eyes and much noise, and therefore little true information. Or because Lucy's is used as a meeting point, and the killer wishes to control what we see there as well. I leaned back. So Lucy's is either a decoy or a surveillance station. Or both, Wolfe said. The phone rang. I picked it up. It was Saul Panzer. Archie, Saul said, voice brisk. I got background on Martin Kester, city lighting, yes. But he's also got a side arrangement. He does private work through a front company called Kestrel Maintenance, uses a bird logo. I blinked. A bird logo? I said. Yeah, Saul said, stylized, could look like a gull or hawk depending on how you squint. He filed the paperwork 2 years ago. Address is a rented mailbox. I glanced at Wolfe. His eyes were intent. Saul continued, and I found something else. Kester's phone records show repeated calls to a number registered to Haraway Logistics, but not to their main line. A private extension. Belongs to a man named Victor Haraway. I felt a slow chill. Owner, I said. Founder and chairman, Saul confirmed. Big money, public face, likes charity dinners. And he's got a townhouse 2 blocks from your place, because New York loves irony, I said. Saul, can you locate Maris Kane? I'm trying, Saul said. But whoever has her is careful. No digital trail. One more thing. A city truck assigned to Kester's division was reported missing last night for 3 hours. Then it reappeared. Report says clerical error. Clerical error, I said. Sure. I hung up and turned to Wolfe. Victor Haraway, I said. Chairman calls to Kester, and Kester's front company uses a bird logo. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. So the bird pin may have belonged to Kester's front, he said. Not Haraway Logistics itself. Or Haraway and Kester use the same bird, I said. Because they are connected. Wolfe nodded. Yes, and now the matchbook. Lucy's, I said. Diner at Riddle and 9th, maybe their meeting spot. Wolfe sat still, cigar smoke curling upward in the warm lamplight of his office. Outside, the city's sounds drifted in faintly through the curtains. Taxis, horns, a distant shout inside. Wolfe was building a structure out of angles and bodies and symbols. We will go to Lucy's, Wolfe said. I stared. You just told Kramer not to rush there. I told him not to go as a bull, Wolfe replied. We will not go as bulls. We will go as patrons. I blinked again. You, I said. Yes, Wolfe said. You are going to sit in a diner, I said, with linoleum and coffee that tastes like regret, and you are going to be a patron. Wolfe's expression remained firm. Yes, Wolfe, I said. You do not fit in a diner booth. I will sit at a table, Wolfe said. Archie, the author of this narrative, believes he controls the stage. I intend to demonstrate otherwise. I exhaled. All right, I said, but if anyone offers you pie, you will declare war. Wolfe's eyes flicked to me. Do not be frivolous, he said. We must consider why Mr. Lanning was placed where he was. To warn me, I said. I talked to him. Now he is dead. Message received. Yes, Wolfe said. And to provoke the police and to push us toward Lucy's. He paused, then added quietly. Also, Archie, to inform me that our opponent has the ability to move bodies and evidence quickly. That suggests access to vehicles, storage spaces, and men who obey orders. An organization, I said, not a lone psycho. Exactly, Wolfe said. The phone rang again. This time it was Stebbins, calling from Lucy's. Archie, he said, voice low. I am here. The diner is small, 2 waitresses. A cook, 4 customers. I saw something. What? I asked. A man came in, Stebbins said. Saturday at the counter, ordered coffee. He did not drink it. He left a matchbook on the counter, red and white, Lucy's, and walked out. He never looked around, but he seemed aware. Describe him, I said. Stebbins did. Medium build, coat, hat, but that is New York's uniform. Then Stebbins added. He had a hand injury, bandaged like he tore it. I thought of the tear in the warehouse, my fingers ripping fabric and green seal. Could be our runner, I said. Possibly, Stebbins said. And one more thing. When he left, the waitress called him by name. What name? I asked. Stebbins hesitated. She said, Night Vic. I stared at the phone. Wolfe's eyes were on me like a weight. Vic, I said into the receiver. Victor Harroway. Yes, Stebbins said. She said Vic. I hung up slowly and looked at Wolfe. Victor Harroway, I said. Wolfe's face did not change, but his eyes hardened with something like satisfaction. So the diner is not merely a shadow, he said. It is a junction, and the body that arrived late brought us here, I said. Wolfe nodded once. Yes, he said. Now we go to Lucy's. And Archie, you will be extremely observant. I'm always extremely observant, I said. Wolfe's gaze settled, calm and dangerous. Tonight, he said. You will be more so. Chapter 5. The Diner Mirror. The diner lights were bright, but the security mirror above the counter caught Wolfe's eye. From that mirror you could see the entrance and the street lamp outside. The waitress swore the victim left early, yet the mirror reflection showed a different time. Shadows moved along the pavement hours later than her story allowed. Someone nearby understood how light could rewrite the night. Lucy's lunch looked like every late night refuge ever built for cab drivers, insomniacs, and people who did not want to go home to what they had done. It had a long counter, a row of stools with cracked red vinyl, and booths that made you sit close enough to your companion to share guilt. The air smelled of coffee that had been reheated too many times and onions that had met their destiny on a griddle. And it had Nero Wolfe, occupying a corner table like a large monument dropped by accident into a cheap painting. He had agreed to come only after I promised, with the solemnity of an oath, that I would not ask him to eat pie. Wolfe had eaten at places beneath his standards before, but only under duress, and he carried the indignation like a cape. You are staring, I said, because he was. I am observing, Wolfe corrected. His eyes were fixed on the convex security mirror above the counter. The kind diners use to watch their own backs, because the world has a habit of approaching from behind. The mirror reflected the entire room in a distorted curve, and beyond the glass front you could see the street outside, including the street lamp on the corner that had become the star of our performance. Wolfe, I said, if you keep looking at that thing, people will think you are admiring yourself. I am admiring accuracy, he said. Do you see the lamp? In the mirror, I said. Yes, it looks like a bent tooth. Precisely, Wolfe said, and you can see the entrance and the pavement. That mirror records movement, even if no one admits it. I slid into the chair across from him and signaled the waitress. She was young enough to be tired without looking old, and she carried a coffee pot like it was a weapon she could legally use. What'll it be? She asked. Coffee, I said, and whatever is least offensive to a man who believes cookery is a branch of philosophy. Wolfe looked at her. Tea, he said. She blinked. We got tea bags. Bring hot water that has not been used previously, Wolfe said. Her eyes narrowed. Sure, when she left. I leaned forward. Stebbins called, I said. He said, the waitress here called a man Vic. Yes, Wolfe said. And Mr. Panzer delivered Victor Harroway as a name of interest. We are not here for coincidence. Greet, I said. So we are here to watch the mirror and see if Vic walks in and offers to confess. Wolfe's gaze did not leave the mirror. We are here to determine who controls the narrative, he said. The matchbook was planted. Mr. Lanning was placed. The killer wishes us to come here. Therefore, this is either a trap or a junction of information. Or both, I said. Wolfe nodded slightly. Or both. The waitress returned with coffee for me and a mug of hot water with a tea bag, beside it like an apology. Wolfe inspected the water as if he expected it to have a criminal record. He did not drink. I let my eyes roam the diner. 2 men at the counter, one with a cab driver's cap, the other with hands stained by grease and a face that looked permanently surprised. A couple in a booth whispering as if the walls might report them. A solitary man near the window, hat low, reading a newspaper, He was not really reading. The cook behind the pass-through looked like he had been born under a heat lamp, and behind the counter, Lucy herself, or at least the woman who owned the place, and moved like she owned the air. She was in her 50s, broad-shouldered, hair pinned back, eyes sharp. She watched Wolfe the way a sensible person watches a large dog that may or may not be friendly. I stood and walked to the counter. "Are you Lucy?" I asked. She looked me up and down. "Depends who's asking." "Archie Goodwin," I said. "I work for Nero Wolfe, the fat detective." "That is one description," I said. "We're asking about a man who was found dead near Harroway Warehouse tonight, Howard Lanning." Her eyes tightened. "Police already came." "Police come late," I said. "We come when people start lying." "I don't lie," she snapped. "Great," I said. "Then you will not mind answering. Did Lanning come here today?" She hesitated. That was the first crack. "He's been here," she said. "Not today." "When?" I asked. She shifted her weight. "Couple times last week. Coffee. Sandwich." "He didn't talk much." I nodded. "Did you give him a matchbook?" "We got matchbooks," she said. "People take them." "Did you see him tonight?" I asked. She shook her head too quickly. "Number," I smiled. "Lucy, when people say no that fast, they are usually answering a different question." Her jaw set. "What do you want?" "I want the truth," I said. "And I want to avoid coming back with Inspector Kramer and a notebook and a bad attitude." Her eyes narrowed. "You threatening me?" "I am offering you a choice," I said. "Tell me whether he was here tonight." She glanced toward the cook, then toward the front window. Her voice dropped. "He came in," she said, early. "How early?" I asked. 8-something, she said. "Maybe 8:30. And he left," I said. "Yes," she said, quickly again. "He left early." I took out my notebook. "What time did he leave?" I asked. She rubbed her palm on the counter as if wiping away fingerprints. "Before 9, she said, like 8:50. He was nervous. Kept looking outside. He left, and that was it." I wrote it down and looked up. "Who else was here?" I asked. "Anyon you recognized." She hesitated. "Vic came by," she said. I kept my face neutral, because excitement is useful but obvious. Excitement is foolish. "Vic who?" I asked. She shrugged, and it was not convincing. "Just Vic comes in sometimes. Not a big deal." "What does he do?" I asked. "He's got money," she said. "That's what he does." I nodded. "Did Vic come in after Lanning left?" Lucy's eyes flicked away. "He came in later," she said. "Not right after." "How much later?" I pressed. She exhaled sharply. "Look, mister, I run a diner. I don't run a clock." I pointed at the wall behind her. A simple round clock hung there, white face, black hands, cheap and honest. "You run a clock," I said. "Who set it?" She glared at me. "What is this? A game?" I leaned closer. "Lucy, 2 men are dead and a woman is missing. If you want your diner to keep serving coffee instead of subpoenas, you will be accurate." Her lips compressed. "All right," she said. "Vic came in around 10. 10, I repeated, "not before 9. She nodded. "Around 10, maybe after." I wrote it. Then I asked, "Did Vic talk to Lanning earlier?" Lucy's face tightened. "Number." I waited. She swallowed. "Not here," she amended. "Not inside." I turned slightly and looked at the mirror above the counter. From there you could see the front door and the pavement outside, including the street lamp. You could also see, in a warped curve, the little patch of sidewalk where a man could stand and watch without coming in. I said, "Lucy, that mirror is useful. It sees the street." Her eyes darted to it. "So what?" "So if someone stood outside at 9:30, the mirror would catch them." I said, "And if your clock is honest, it would catch their timing." She stiffened. "I don't know what you're talking about." I went back to Wolfe. He was still watching the mirror. "She is evasive," he said. She says Lanning left before 9. I said, she says Vic came around 10. Wolfe's eyes remained calm. And you believe her, he said. I believe she believes she should say it, I replied. Wolfe nodded. Yes, sit. I sat. Wolfe spoke without looking at me. Archie, the mirror is convex. It compresses distance and exaggerates angle, but it preserves sequence. It shows the street lamp, and therefore the pattern of light on the pavement. I stared at the mirror and saw what he meant. The street lamp's glow made a bright oval on the sidewalk. Shadows from passers-by slid across it like dark fish. Wolfe continued. If Miss Lucy claims Mr. Lanning left at 8:50, then he would have walked through that pool of light at that time. Yet the police report, and your own observation, suggest he was killed elsewhere and placed at the warehouse later. Therefore, we must determine whether he left at 8:50 or whether the statement is designed to place him elsewhere. You think she is placing him away from Vic, I said. I think she is placing him away from something, Wolfe replied. Perhaps not Vic. Perhaps the diner itself. I shifted in my chair. How do we prove it? I asked. We cannot rewind the mirror. Wolfe's eyes flicked to the ceiling corner above the register, where a small black dome sat, dull and modern. That is a camera, he said. I blinked. In a diner, I said. Diners are robbed, Wolfe said. Owners install cameras. Cameras record time. Mirrors reflect time. Your task is to persuade Miss Lucy to provide access. I sighed. Persuasion, my drawer is open. I stood and walked to Lucy again, but more politely, I said, Lucy, we need to see your camera footage. Her eyes widened. Number, Lucy, I said. This is not about your customers ordering pie at midnight. This is about a murder. She folded her arms. Police can get it with a warrant. They can, I said. But they will break something and accuse you of hiding it. We prefer to ask. She shook her head. I don't want trouble. You already have trouble, I said. It walked in and sat at your counter. It might own a company. It might own the city. But you still have trouble. Her gaze hardened. You talking about Vic? I am talking about whoever controls the shadows, I said. Now, do you want to help a missing woman, or do you want to serve coffee to men who kill people and then use your diner as a prop? That hit. Her eyes flicked toward the front window again, and I saw fear there. Real. She was not protecting a secret for profit. She was protecting her life, she said quietly. Vic's not just Vic. Tell me, I said. She wet her lips. He pays cash, she said. He gives me extra for keeping my mouth shut. He uses my back booth sometimes. He does not want people listening. I kept my voice soft. Back booth, I said. Meetings. Lucy nodded once. He comes in late. He sits where the mirror can see the door. He watches. If someone comes in he does not like, he leaves. I glanced at the mirror. He uses your mirror, I said. Lucy swallowed. I didn't think of it like that, she whispered. You did, I said. You just did not say it out loud. She grimaced. All right, she said. I'll show you the footage, but not in front of everybody. Good, I said. Show me in the back. She led me through a narrow corridor, past a restroom that looked like it had seen too many confessions, into a small office with a desk, a safe and a monitor that displayed 4 camera views. The time stamp glowed in the corner of each view. Lucy pointed at the chair. Sit, she said. We need tonight, I said. Between 8 and 11. She tapped buttons with quick fingers. The footage rolled, grainy but clear enough. I watched the counter, the booths, the door, the time stamp ticked. At 8:22, Howard Lanning entered. He looked exactly like the sort of man who believed he belonged in clean offices, not diners. He glanced around, then slid into a booth near the wall. At 8:35, a man entered and went to the counter. Medium build, hat, coat. Even on grainy footage I recognized the tilt of his head. Victor Haraway. If Stebbins' name was right, he did not sit. He ordered coffee. He did not drink it. Haraway moved first, as if he had tugged an invisible rope. He stepped outside. The camera at the door caught the sidewalk through the glass. The street lamp's light pool was visible. At 8:42, Lanning stepped out. Lucy's voice was tight behind me. "See," she said. "He left early." "Wait," I said. I watched the door camera. Lanning paused on the sidewalk. Haraway was not visible, but his shadow was long and angled, crossing the light pool from the left. Lanning turned his head toward the shadow, not toward the person. He followed it, moving left, out of frame. "Where does that sidewalk lead?" I asked. Lucy swallowed. "Around the side," she said, "toward the alley." I felt a chill. The time stamp read 8:42. If Lanning went toward the alley then, and yet his body was placed later with blood trail, it meant he did not die in the diner, but he left from it and went into someone's hands. "Keep going," I said. Lucy fast, forwarded. At 9:10, the diner was ordinary. At 9:38, the door opened and a man entered, hurried, face pale. He went straight to the restroom, stayed 2 minutes, then left without ordering. At 9:45, Lucy herself stepped to the door and looked out, then came back, rubbing her hands. At 10:07, Haraway returned, same coat, same hat. He sat in the back booth. He spoke with Lucy briefly. She brought him coffee. He did not drink much. He watched the door and the mirror, which I could see now was indeed aimed to show the entrance and the sidewalk. At 10:21, another man entered and slid into Haraway's booth. The camera caught his face in profile, and I recognized him with a small jolt. Howard Lanning. "I'll leave." I stared at the screen. Lucy made a sound in her throat. "That can't be," she whispered. I kept my voice steady. "He came back," I said. The timestamp was merciless. 10:21. Lanning sat across from Haraway, leaning forward, hands tight. Haraway remained relaxed. He spoke, and Lanning's shoulders slumped like a man being told his execution date. At 10:28, Lanning stood. Haraway did not. Lanning walked out. At 10:29, Haraway stood and followed, slower, unhurried. He paused at the door and looked back once, directly at the mirror, directly at the camera, as if he knew the eye was there and did not care. Lucy's voice was trembling. "He never left early," she said. "He was here later. You said he left early." I reminded her gently. She swallowed hard. "Vic told me to say it," she whispered. "He said if the police asked, Lanning left before 9, he said it mattered. It mattered because it moved the story," I said. "It created an alibi of timing." Lucy's eyes were wet. "He's going to kill me," she said. "No," I said. "He is going to try. There is a difference." I stood and went back to Wolfe, leaving Lucy staring at her own screen like it had betrayed her. Wolfe took one look at my face. "You saw," he said. "Yes," I said. She lied because Haraway told her to. Lanning left at 8:42, then returned at 10:21 and met with Haraway, then left again at 10:28. Haraway followed. Wolfe's eyes went to the mirror again. "The mirror shows the street lamp," he said. "And therefore the shadow. Did you see it?" "I did," I said. At 8:42, Haraway's shadow crossed the light pool before Lanning followed. Same trick shadow before man. Wolfe's mouth tightened. "So Haraway uses the same technique," he murmured. "Or his associate does. He controls light, timing, perception." I leaned in. "Wolfe, the camera proves Lucy's story is false. It also proves Haraway met Lanning alive later. Then Lanning ends up dead and placed at the warehouse. That puts Haraway right in the chain." Wolfe's eyes were calm. "It puts him in the narrative," he corrected. "We must still prove agency." "You want a signed confession," I said. "I want reason that will survive a jury," Wolfe replied. "And I want Maris Kane alive." I glanced around. The solitary man near the window had folded his newspaper and was watching us now. His posture had changed, less casual. He stood and moved toward the door. I leaned toward Wolfe. "We have an audience," I said softly. Wolfe did not turn his head. Yes, he said, the author has arrived. The man stepped outside. In the mirror, I saw him pause under the street lamp. His shadow stretched across the pavement, long and clean. Then he lifted his hand and adjusted something at the base of the lamp. A small motion, almost nothing, but Wolfe saw it. His eyes narrowed, and I felt the room tighten. Angles, Wolfe said quietly. They never forget. I pushed back my chair and stood. Wolfe, stay, I said. I'll go. Wolfe's voice was low and firm. No, he said. You will not chase shadows into the street. That is what he expects. Outside, the man's shadow shifted slightly, longer, angled wrong. He looked up at the diner window, and even through glass and distance I felt the certainty that he was looking directly at us. He smiled, just briefly, then walked away into the city. I sat back down slowly. Wolfe's gaze remained fixed on the mirror, on the lamp, on the altered angle. He is near, Wolfe said. Who? I asked. Wolfe's voice was cold. Not Haraway. Haraway is the face. This is the hand. I swallowed. Then we have to identify the hand. Yes, Wolfe said. And now we have proof that the diner is not merely a shadow in the story. It is a mirror. It reflects the truth, despite those who attempt to bend the light. I stood again. We need to secure Lucy, I said. She is a witness, and she is terrified. Wolfe nodded. We will remove her from danger, he said. And we will give Inspector Kramer the camera timing. He will not enjoy it, but he will use it. I looked at the mirror once more. The street lamp's pool of light on the pavement was slightly different now, a fraction skewed. The night had not changed. The lighting had been edited again. Chapter 6. The floodlight purchase. A hardware shop owner on Riddle Street remembered selling a portable floodlight 2 days ago. The buyer was a man named Cal Rusk, known for solving problems in careless ways. With a floodlight and a shifted street lamp, a shadow could appear anywhere. It was a perfect trick for staging the moment of a crime. But tricks always leave fingerprints in the angles. We got Lucy out of her diner, the way you get a cat out of a burning house, with persuasion, speed, and the promise that the unpleasant part would be temporary. She did not want to leave her counter, her cook, her cash box, or her sense of control, but the moment she understood that the man who had paid her for silence had also paid for death, her pride became a thin coat in bad weather. Wolfe did not lecture her. He did not threaten her. He did what he does best when he needs compliance from a frightened person. He made the truth sound like the only civilized option. You will come to my house, he told her, and you will speak to Inspector Kramer from there. You will not return to this diner until you are guarded. If you refuse, you will either die or live as a coward. I do not care which, but you will not do it in my presence. Lucy stared at him, then at me, then at her own hands. She said, All right, like it cost her a tooth. I called Kramer from the diner office, while Wolfe waited in the front, with the look of a man enduring a public nuisance. Kramer, I said, we have camera footage from Lucy's timestamps. Lanning left at 8:42, returned at 10:21, met with Haraway, left again at 10:28. Haraway followed. Lucy was told to lie and say he left before 9. There was a silence, the kind that means a man is chewing anger and trying not to choke on it. You got the footage, Kramer said. We have it, I replied. We are bringing Lucy to Wolfe's. She is scared. She is also a witness. Another pause then, rougher. All right, I'll send a man. You send a smart one, I said. Not a bull. He hung up without promising not to be himself. We took Lucy in my car because Wolfe refused to ride in a cab with a witness who smelled like coffee and fear, though he did not say it that way. He sat in the back seat like an offended senator, Lucy beside him clutching her purse as if it contained her identity. On the way, Wolfe said almost nothing. He watched streetlights pass, watched shadows slide on pavement, watched the city as if it were a diagram he intended to correct. Back at the brownstone, Fritz reacted to Lucy the way Fritz reacts to unexpected guests at 10 at night. He made a face that was polite but deeply wounded, then promptly gave her tea and a chair in the kitchen, as if hospitality were a reflex he could not suppress. Wolfe and I went to the office. I set the diner footage tape and Lucy's written statement, shaky but legible, on Wolfe's desk. Wolfe did not touch them. He looked at them like they were evidence of bad manners. "The lamp was altered again," Wolfe said. "I saw the guy," I replied. "Not clearly. Medium build, careful hands, quick smile. He adjusted the base like he had done it before." Wolfe nodded. "And he did it in view of the mirror. That is a deliberate provocation." "Or a message," I said. "Like, I can do this any time I want." "Yes," Wolfe said. "He controls light, therefore he attempts to control sequence. If he can control sequence, he can control blame." The doorbell rang, and I went to answer. It was a uniform Kramer had sent, a young man whose eyes kept traveling across Wolfe's hall as if he expected to find a body behind the umbrella stand. I brought him to the kitchen where Lucy sat rigidly with her tea. When he began his questions, Wolfe remained in the doorway, listening without seeming to listen. That is one of his talents. He can look bored and still harvest every syllable. After 15 minutes, Lucy had told the uniform everything she knew, which was more than she wanted and less than she feared. The uniform left with a statement and the promise of protection he did not have the authority to guarantee. When the front door closed, Wolfe said, "Archie, we must identify the hand." "I'm working on it," I said. "But right now we have a face too. Victor Haraway met Lanning alive. That is a big chunk of chain." "A chain is not a noose," Wolfe replied. "We must show that Haraway ordered or approved. Otherwise he will claim he was meeting a nervous employee and left him alive. He will smile, he will hire counsel, and he will continue arranging shadows." I nodded. "So we need the hand to point to the head." Wolfe's eyes narrowed. "Or the hand to confess." I snorted. "You want the hand to confess in your office with Fritz serving beer?" Wolfe ignored that. "We also require Miss Kane." "Alive," I said. "Alive," Wolfe agreed. "And for that we need leverage." The phone rang. I grabbed it. Saul Panzer's voice came brisk. "Archie, I found something," he said. "Kester has a friend, a freelance fixer type named Cal Rusk. Same circle. Same kind of work. He does odd jobs sometimes, for Haraway people." Rusk was seen near Riddle Street yesterday, according to a cab driver who knows him. "Cal Rusk," I repeated. "What kind of odd jobs?" Saul's voice went dry. "The kind where a man regrets asking questions. Also, Rusk bought a portable floodlight 2 days ago." That made my spine tighten. "A floodlight?" I said. "Yes," Saul replied. "From a hardware shop on Riddle Street. I can give you the address." I looked at Wolfe. His eyes were intent, and he had heard enough from my tone. "Saul," I said, "you just earned yourself dinner." "I will accept in cash," he said, and hung up. I relayed it to Wolfe. "Cal Rusk," I said, "fixer, bought a portable floodlight 2 days ago from a hardware shop on Riddle Street." Wolfe's mouth tightened. "A floodlight," he said softly. "That is elegant." "Elegant," I repeated. "You call buying a floodlight elegant?" "It is not the purchase," Wolfe said. "It is the application. With a floodlight and an adjusted street lamp, you can cast a shadow from any direction you desire. You can make a man's shadow appear early, late, or not at all." I felt a chill. "So you can stage the moment," I said. "You can make it look like someone arrived when they did not, or make it look like someone was present when they were not." "Yes," Wolfe said. "A perfect device for framing, also for signaling, as we suspected." I stood. "I'll go to the hardware shop," I said. Wolfe's eyes fixed on me. "You will go with caution," he said. "I always do," I replied. Wolfe's eyebrows rose a fraction. "All right," I amended. "I will go with more caution than usual." The hardware shop was the kind of narrow place squeezed between a laundromat and a shuttered storefront. It smelled of paint, rope, dust, and the stubborn belief that any problem can be solved by a wrench if you swing hard enough. A bell tinkled when I opened the door. Behind the counter was a man with thick glasses and hands that had handled more screws than money. He looked up with the weary suspicion of a merchant who has seen every kind of nonsense, including police. "Can I help you?" he asked. "I hope so," I said, flashing my card. "Archie Goodwin, Nero Wolfe. You sold a portable floodlight 2 days ago." His eyes widened a fraction. "Paulus already asked about that." "Paulus asked," I said. "Wolfe understands. Who bought it?" The man's jaw set. "I don't like trouble." "Neither do I," said. "But trouble likes us both. Name is Cal Rusk." He stared. "How do you know that?" "Because I am asking about him," I said. "Did he buy it?" The man hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, Cal Rusk. Cash didn't want a receipt." "What kind?" I asked. "Portable halogen," he said. "Tripod stand. Bright as day. For construction," he said. "For construction," I repeated. "On Riddle Street." The man rubbed his fingers together as if trying to erase the memory. "He asked about throw distance," he said. "How far it would cast light." I told him. "He asked about angle, like he was a photographer or something." "Or a stage manager," I said. The man swallowed. "He also bought extension cords," he added. "Heavy duty, and one of those clamp mounts." I felt my jaw tighten. "Clamp mount," I said. "So he could attach it to something. Aim it." "Yeah," the man said. "He wanted it stable." "Did he say why?" I asked. The man shook his head. "He smiled," he said, like it was a joke he didn't share. I nodded slowly. "Describe him," I said. The man described Cal Rusk. Big shoulders, short hair, a scar near the chin, eyes that did not apologize. The kind of man who solves problems in careless ways, like your subheading said. And New York supplies a steady demand for such work. "Anything else?" I asked. The man frowned. "He had a ring," he said. "Silver bird on it." That hit like a fist with manners. "Bird," I said. "Yeah," he said, "like a hawk or something." I held my face steady. "Did he come alone?" The man hesitated. "There was another guy in the car," he said. "Didn't come in, just sat." "City truck." "City truck, of course. You could drive one anywhere, and people would step aside as if the city itself had borrowed a steering wheel." I said, "Thank you," and left before my temper tried to buy a hammer. Outside, the street lamp at the corner hummed, and for a second I wanted to shoot it out of spite. I walked to the nearest payphone and called Wolfe. "Hardware shop confirms," I said. "Cal Rusk bought a portable halogen floodlight, tripod, clamp mount, heavy-duty cords, asked about distance and angle, had a bird ring, came in a city truck with another guy waiting." Wolfe's voice was calm. "Good," he said. "This confirms capability. A floodlight can create a second light source. With that, one can manufacture a shadow independent of the street lamp, then alter the street lamp to match or confuse. It is a double instrument." "A trick," I said. "Yes," Wolfe replied. "And tricks require operators. Cal Rusk is an operator." "You want me to find him?" I said. "I want you to find him," Wolfe agreed. "But first, return. We must decide whether to bait him or corner him." I returned to the brownstone and found Wolfe in his chair. Cigar, lit expression composed. Lucy was upstairs in the spare room, with Fritz hovering like a stern guardian. The house felt like a fortress, which is what Wolfe likes. But the city outside was still full of movable light. I gave Wolfe every detail, including the bird ring and the city truck. Wolfe listened, eyes narrowed. "The bird motif persists," he said. "But it is not Haraway's corporate emblem, I suspect. It is Kester's front, Kestrel maintenance, as Panzer found. Or it is the symbol of the operation itself. Either way, Haraway is tied in," I said. Kester called him. "Haraway met Lanning. Rusk wears the bird. City truck used. It all smells like one kitchen." Wolfe's mouth tightened slightly at the word kitchen, because in his mind the only acceptable kitchen is Fritz's. "We must not overstate," he said. "But yes, it is converging." I sat and opened my notebook. Here is what bothers me, I said. Why bother with a floodlight and a street lamp? Why not just kill people quietly and bury them? Wolfe's eyes fixed on me. Because their objective is not merely death, he said. It is control. They need to control what is believed. They need to control sequence. They need to control who is blamed, and perhaps to intimidate. They are staging. Staging is a declaration of power. And framing, I said. Yes, Wolfe said. If you can make a shadow appear earlier than a man, you can imply he arrived earlier. If you can shift the shadow several feet, you can imply he stood where he did not. If you can place a floodlight behind a corner, you can cast a silhouette that belongs to someone else. I thought of the alley wall, the long shadow, the man who ran. So you could cast my shadow, I said, and make it look like I was there before Wolfe. Indeed, Wolfe said. Or you could cast Inspector Kramer's shadow and make it appear he arrived before his patrolman. Shadows are crude evidence, but they persuade the mind because they resemble reality. And people prefer what resembles reality, I said, to reality itself. Wolfe nodded. Precisely. The phone rang again, I answered, Kramer. Goodwin, he barked. We got your tape. We're sending it to the lab. Where are you getting this stuff? From people who are tired of being used as props, I said. Also, Kramer, I have a name, Cal Rusk. Bought a floodlight. Connected to Kester. There was a pause. Rusk, Kramer said. Yeah, I know the type. Where is he? Not in my pocket, I said. But we can find him. Kramer's voice was grim. We picked up Kester again, he said. He lawyered up. He says he barely knows Haraway. He says he never heard of Maris Kane. He says you shot his pepper canister for fun. I did it for his health, I said. Kramer ignored that. And we got something else. Lanning's blood indicates he was killed indoors. On a smooth surface, then moved. The smear matches a plastic sheet. Wolfe lifted a hand, and I put the phone on speaker so he could hear. Wolfe said, Inspector, that indicates preparation. A plastic sheet suggests an area used repeatedly for such work. Kramer snorted. Thanks, Wolfe. You got a file of obvious statements. Wolfe's voice stayed calm. You will search for such an area, he said. By identifying facilities controlled by Haraway Logistics or by Kester Maintenance with access to a smooth floor and privacy. You will also consider that Miss Kane may be held at or near the same facility. Kramer growled. I'll do my job. You will do it better if you listen, Wolfe said. Kramer hung up. I looked at Wolfe. He loves you, I said. Wolfe ignored that. Archie, we must locate Cal Rusk. He is the sort who can be pressured. With what? I asked. With discomfort, Wolfe said. I have a drawer, I said. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. Not that kind, intellectual discomfort. He will not respond to threats. He will respond to inevitability. So we trap him, I said. Wolfe nodded. Yes, the floodlight purchase is not merely a tool. It is a liability. It can be traced. He believed it anonymous because he paid cash, but merchants remember unusual buyers. That means he left a fingerprint in memory. Angles leave fingerprints too, I said. Wolfe's gaze sharpened. Exactly, he said. And now, Archie, we will use that. He leaned forward slightly, the way he does when a plan becomes solid in his mind. We will invite Victor Haraway to this house. I stared. Invite him, I repeated. Yes, Wolfe said. We will present ourselves as civil, as concerned, as curious. We will imply we possess evidence that will embarrass him. He will react by sending a hand, not his own, to retrieve or silence. You mean Rusk, I said. Possibly, Wolfe said, or someone like him. But if Haraway believes the diner footage is in my possession, and not yet in the police's, he may attempt to control it. It is already in the police's, I said. Wolfe's eyes held mine. He may not know that. I sat back, feeling the pieces shift into a tighter pattern. So we use the tape as bait, I said. We use Haraway's vanity, Wolfe corrected. He will not tolerate a narrative he cannot control. I pictured Haraway in Lucy's camera, pausing at the door, looking back at the mirror as if he owned the eye. He likes being watched, I said, as long as he writes the script. Yes, Wolfe said. And Cal Rusk is one of his script assistants. I exhaled. All right, I said. We invite Haraway. How do we do that without him laughing and sending a lawyer? Wolfe's mouth tightened. We will not invite him with pleading. We will invite him with certainty. He reached for the phone. Mr. Goodwin, he said, find the number for Victor Haraway's office. I will speak. I found it quickly enough. Haraway Logistics was the sort of company that prints its numbers in bold because it assumes people want them. Wolfe dialed. When the receptionist answered, Wolfe's voice was courteous and heavy. This is Nero Wolfe, he said. Inform Mr. Victor Haraway that I require his presence at my home tomorrow at 11. It concerns the deaths of Graham Riddle and Howard Lanning and the whereabouts of Maris Kane. If he does not come, I will conclude he prefers the police to inquire publicly into his conduct. He listened, then said, yes, and hung up. I stared at him. That was not an invitation, I said. It was, Wolfe replied. It included an option. Your option sounded like a threat, I said. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. It was, he said. Threats are sometimes efficient. I sat with my notebook and felt the air in the office change, like the moment before a storm breaks. Wolfe had thrown a line into deep water. Something would bite, and we would learn what it was. Outside, a street lamp shone on West 35th Street, steady and honest. But I could not look at it without imagining a floodlight behind a corner, a clamp mount on a pole, an extra angle added by a man with careless hands. Tricks, Wolfe had said, always leave fingerprints in the angles. Tomorrow we would see whose fingers they belonged to. Chapter 7. Waiting for the correction, Wolfe returned to the alley and left the lamp exactly as he found it. Then he placed small chalk marks around the base and stepped back into the darkness. A careful liar eventually comes back to fix his mistake. Near midnight, a figure crept in and began adjusting the lamp again. The shadow hit the wall before the man did, just like before. If you ever decide to test the patience of Nero Wolfe, I recommend you do it with a clock. Nothing else will work as reliably. You can insult his cooking, question his orchids, or suggest that Inspector Kramer is a poet, and Wolfe will only look at you with a slow contempt that has had years of practice. But ask him to wait somewhere uncomfortable, with nothing to do but observe, and you will see what his pride is made of. We were back on Riddle Street at 10:45, and Wolfe had chosen our position as if it were a military emplacement. We were not in the alley. Wolfe had declared the alley vulgar and damp, which was accurate, and had arranged us in a recessed doorway across the street, where we could see the lamp, the service door, and the brick wall that had become the stage for our shadow play. He had also brought chalk. You brought chalk, I said, when he produced it from his pocket, like a conjurer producing a rabbit. I brought a marking instrument, Wolfe corrected. Chalk is merely its current form. What are you marking? I asked. The lamp base, Wolfe said. Its current orientation, its current bolt position, the points at which it has been disturbed. If it is disturbed again, the disturbance will be measurable. I rubbed my hands together because the night wind had teeth. Wolfe, it is late, I said. You summoned Victor Haraway for 11 tomorrow. We have Lucy upstairs with Fritz guarding her, like she is an endangered species. We have Kramer in a mood that could curdle milk. Why are we out here? Because the author will return, Wolfe said. The author, I repeated. The hand, Wolfe said. The man who edits light. He adjusted the lamp in view of Lucy's mirror. That was arrogance. Arrogance invites correction. I sighed. And you are waiting for the liar to correct his mistake? Yes, Wolfe said. He had crossed the street, knelt by the base of the street lamp with a dignity that did not belong to the posture, and placed small chalk marks around the metal in a pattern that would have made a geometry teacher proud. He did not smear. He did not rush. He marked the circumference where the base plate met pavement, then marked the bolts, then made two small lines indicating the direction the lamp head faced. He stood and studied the wall, then stepped back into our doorway and folded his arms. "Now," Wolfe said. "We wait." We did, at 11:15. A taxi passed, slow, then sped up. At 11:30, two men came down the street talking loud enough to offend the bricks. At 11:40, a couple hurried past with their collars up and their eyes down, as if the air itself was inconvenient. At 11:55, a city truck rumbled in the distance, but it was on 9th and did not turn. Wolfe stood without moving, a large, dark shape in the doorway, eyes fixed on the lamp and the wall. He had instructed me not to smoke, which I found personally insulting, and so I amused myself by counting the ways this could go wrong. I had reached the number 27 when Wolfe spoke. "Archie," he said softly. "What?" I whispered, because whatever he had seen, it mattered. He pointed with his cane, a small motion, toward the far end of the street. A figure had appeared at the corner, walking with the quiet assurance of a man who believes the city belongs to him. Not hurried, not casual, a controlled pace. He wore a dark jacket and a cap pulled low. He carried something in his right hand, long and narrow, a tool bag, or a folded tripod, or a weapon disguised as hardware. The figure stopped under the street lamp and looked up at it as if he were assessing a horse. Wolfe's voice was barely audible. "There," he said. "Observe the sequence." The man stepped toward the lamp base. He did not look around. That was the first sign. A guilty man who expects surprise looks everywhere. A guilty man who expects obedience looks nowhere. He crouched and put the object down. It was a small tool roll, or a case, and it made a soft sound on the pavement. He opened it and took out a wrench. Then he began adjusting the lamp. The chalk marks were visible even from across the street, pale on dark metal. As the wrench turned, I saw a chalk line shift. Just slightly, but enough. Wolfe did not move. He watched with the absorbed focus he gives an orchid bud when it threatens to bloom wrong. The man loosened a bolt, shifted the lamp head by a small degree, then tightened again. A practiced motion. He was not experimenting. He was restoring a preferred lie. And then it happened. The same little miracle of misdirection that had started the case. The light changed, the wall across the alley caught it, and a shadow slid across the bricks. The shadow hit the wall before the man stood up. It was a shadow that announced him, and that was the point. Even now, with no audience except us, he could not resist the performance. Wolfe's voice was calm. "Now," he said. I stepped out of the doorway, gun already in my hand because I had learned not to be romantic about men with tools. The night air slapped my face. My shoes sounded too loud. I hated that. "Police," I called, because the word carries weight even when it is borrowed. "Hands up." The man froze for a fraction, wrench still in hand. Then he did not bolt. That was the second sign. This was not a panicked criminal. This was a professional who had options. He turned slowly, half rising, face still shadowed by the cap. "Who are you?" he said. "A citizen with a bad temper," I said. "Hands up." He lifted his hands, wrench included. "Easy," he said. His voice was low and rough, like a man who has used it to end conversations. "You do not want trouble." "I never do," I said. "But trouble keeps courting me." Wolfe stepped out behind me, his bulk filling the doorway like the judgment of a civilized world. He did not raise his voice. He did not show fear. He simply spoke as if addressing a waiter who had brought the wrong dish. "Mr. Rusk," Wolfe said, "you have disturbed my chalk marks." The man's head tilted slightly, his eyes now visible, sharpened. "You," he said. "Wolfe, you recognize me," Wolfe said. "That is useful." The man laughed once. "Short. I recognize anybody with that kind of reputation," he said. "What is this? You got a hobby now. Streetlights." Wolfe's eyes remained steady. "My hobby is truth," he said. "You have been altering this lamp to produce false shadows." Rusk's shoulders lifted slightly, as if he were shrugging while still crouched. "You cannot arrest me for turning a bolt," he said. "No," Wolfe replied. "But I can inform Inspector Kramer that you have been manipulating evidence in a murder investigation. He will be eager." Rusk's eyes flicked to my gun, then to Wolfe, then briefly down the street. He was calculating distances, angles, sightlines. It was almost charming, if he had not been the sort to solve problems in careless ways. "Put the wrench down," I said. He did not. He began to straighten, slowly, hands still raised. "All right," he said. "You caught me adjusting a lamp. Congratulations. Now step aside, and I will go home." "You will not," Wolfe said. Rusk's mouth tightened. "You always talk like that," he said, "like the world is supposed to obey." "The world often does," Wolfe replied. Rusk's eyes hardened. He made his move. He snapped the wrench down, not toward me, but toward the base, and with a quick motion he kicked his tool, rolled toward the alley mouth. It slid on the pavement and stopped against the curb. Then he lunged. Not at me, at Wolfe. It was clever, because he assumed I would hesitate to shoot with Wolfe in the line. He assumed I would value Wolfe's bulk more than my own clean shot. He was half right. I moved between them instead, stepping in and bringing the gun up. Rusk's shoulder hit mine. His hand grabbed for my wrist. The wrench clanged on pavement. For a second we were locked. His strength against mine, his breath hot, my coat collar biting my neck. I drove my knee up. It landed somewhere useful. He grunted, but did not let go. He was strong, the kind of strong that comes from solving problems with hands rather than words. Wolfe, behind me, did the one thing I never expected. He lifted his cane and swung it with surprising precision. It struck Rusk's forearm. Rusk's grip loosened. I twisted, freed my wrist, and shoved him back. He stumbled, then recovered, and turned to run. That is when you stop being polite. I fired, low, aiming at the pavement near his feet. The bullet cracked concrete. He halted, more from instinct than fear, because nobody runs well when the ground explodes. "Inna," I said, "on your knees." Rusk's chest rose and fell. He looked at me, then at Wolfe, and for the first time I saw something like irritation, not at being caught, but at being interrupted. "You two are crazy," he said. Wolfe's voice was calm. "Perhaps," he said, "but we are also correct." Sirens wailed in the distance, because I had asked Kramer to post a patrol within reach, and because Wolfe, for all his disdain of police, is not foolish enough to rely solely on my charm. A patrol car turned onto the street, lights flashing. 2 uniforms jumped out, hands on holsters, eyes bright, with the hope of action. One of them recognized Wolfe and looked startled. The other recognized me and looked relieved. "Got him," I said. He was adjusting the lamp again. Rusk's face went flat. "This is harassment," he said. One uniform snapped cuffs on him. "Tell it downtown," he said. Rusk's eyes flicked to Wolfe. "This is your doing," he said. Wolfe's expression was mild. "It is your doing," he replied. "I merely observed." Kramer arrived 10 minutes later, coat flapping, hat jammed low, expression ready to pick a fight with the moon. When he saw Rusk in cuffs, his face changed, a brief flash of satisfaction before it returned to scowl. "Who the hell is this?" he demanded. "Cal Rusk," I said. "Bought a portable floodlight 2 days ago. Fixer bird ring city truck friend." Kramer's eyes narrowed. "Rusk," he said. "Yeah, I heard of him. He works for anybody with money and no conscience." Wolfe said, "He also edits lighting. He returned tonight to correct the lamp, which means the lamp matters to his employer." Kramer glared at Wolfe. "You were spying on a lamp." "I was setting a trap," Wolfe corrected. Kramer's jaw worked. "You're lucky you didn't get killed." Wolfe's eyes were cold. "I am rarely lucky," he said. "I am prepared." Kramer turned to Rusk. "All right, tough guy," he growled. "Who pays you?" Rusk's mouth curled. "Nobody pays me," he said. "I do favors," Kramer snorted. "You do favors with floodlights. Get him in the car." Rusk was shoved toward the patrol car. As he passed Wolfe, he leaned in slightly, voice low. You do not know what you are stepping into, he said. Wolfe looked at him with calm disdain. I am stepping into truth, he said. You have been stumbling in lies. Rusk's eyes narrowed. You think you can drag Haraway into your parlor and make him confess, he said softly. Men like him do not confess. Wolfe's voice was quiet. No, he said. Men like him are exposed. Rusk smiled. Tight. Then you better hope your missing girl is still breathing, he said. Kramer shoved him into the car and slammed the door. That last line sat in my stomach like cold coffee. I looked at Wolfe. His face was composed, but his eyes had hardened. Wolfe, I said quietly, if Rusk is here adjusting the lamp, he is not guarding Maris Kane. Yes, Wolfe said, which implies she is guarded by someone else, or moved again. Kramer returned to us, voice rough. All right, he said. You got your man. Now what? Wolfe looked at him. Inspector, he said. I require Rusk not to be treated like a common criminal. I require him to be treated like a conduit. Kramer snorted. He's a common criminal. He is also an employee, Wolfe said. Employees lead to employers. Kramer's face darkened. You want me to squeeze him? I want you to offer him an option, Wolfe said. He may choose prison for obstructing justice and aiding murder, or he may choose to speak. Kramer's eyes narrowed. You think he'll talk? Wolfe's voice remained calm. He will talk if we provide what he values, not mercy, not fear advantage. He will betray if betrayal benefits him, I said. He tried to bolt, and he tried to hit Wolfe. That suggests he is nervous. Something is pressing him. Wolfe nodded. Yes, and that pressure can be exploited. Kramer looked at us both as if we were a pair of expensive headaches. Fine, he snapped. I'll take him in, you go home and stay home. Tomorrow at 11, I've got Haraway coming in for questioning. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. No, he said. Kramer stiffened. No. No, Wolfe repeated. Mr. Haraway will come to my house at 11, as I requested. You may be present. Kramer's face reddened. Wolfe, you do not run my interrogations. I do not, Wolfe said. I run my own, and my own are more effective. Kramer glared, then looked away, jaw working. He knew Wolfe was sometimes right, and he hated that knowledge. All right, he said finally. I'll be there, but if you make me look like a fool. You make yourself look like a fool, Wolfe said. I merely observe. Kramer stalked off to his car, muttering. We returned to the brownstone in a quiet that felt heavy. West 35th Street looked peaceful, which is what it likes to do when it has finished spilling blood for the night. Wolfe climbed the steps with steady determination and went straight to his office. Fritz met us in the hall. Mr. Wolfe, he said, voice careful. The lady is upstairs. She sleeps. Good, Wolfe said. Fritz looked at Wolfe's cane, then at my coat, then at our faces. More trouble, he said, not as a question. Only the usual amount, I said. Fritz sniffed as if the usual amount was already an insult. Tomorrow, he said. I will make a proper lunch in case you must entertain criminals. Wolfe nodded once, almost grateful. Fritz went back to the kitchen as if to arm himself with saucepans. In the office, Wolfe sat in his chair and stared at the fireless fireplace. I sat opposite and waited because Wolfe was assembling the next move. Rusk returned to the lamp, Wolfe said at last. Therefore the lamp and its shadows remain essential to the author's design. Because light can frame, I said. Yes, Wolfe said. And because our opponent believes framing may still be necessary, that implies he fears discovery. I rubbed my jaw. We have Haraway coming tomorrow, I said. We have Lucy as witness. We have diner footage. We have Kester in custody. We have Rusk now too. That is a lot of rope. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. It is rope, he said. But we must tie it properly. Haraway will deny. He will claim he met Lanning for business. He will claim he left him alive. He will claim his employees acted independently. We must prevent that. So we need proof of order, I said, not just presence. Yes, Wolfe said. The phone rang. I answered it was Saul Panzer. Archie, Saul said. I heard you caught Rusk. Nice work. Thanks, I said. Got anything else before tomorrow? Saul's voice lowered. Yes. I dug into Haraway Logistics' internal routing. There is a private subdivision they keep off standard paperwork. They call it Haraway Special Handling. Initials US on those green seal lists you saw. I straightened. Ez, I said. That matches the ledger. Yes, Saul said. And one more. The compliance officer, Maris Kane, filed an internal memo 3 days before she vanished. It cited irregularities in special handling consignments. She wrote that the shipments were insured for amounts far above declared value. Meaning something valuable hidden, I said. Exactly, Saul replied. And the memo was forwarded to Victor Haraway personally. I looked at Wolfe. His eyes were intent. Saul, I said, where is the memo now? Removed, Saul said, but a copy exists in an email archive. I can get it. Get it, I said. Saul exhaled. Also, he added, I found a storage yard leased under a shell company tied to Haraway's attorney. Riverfront Queens, smooth concrete floors, plastic sheeting bulk purchase, floodlights on site. I felt the air tighten. That sounds like the kill room, I said. It sounds like the staging room, Saul agreed. If Miss Kane is alive, she might be near there. I hung up and relayed it to Wolfe in quick, clean facts. Wolfe listened, then closed his eyes for a moment. Haraway Special Handling, Wolfe said softly, is the ledger initials. Therefore, the operation is internal to Haraway, not merely attached. And Maris Kane sent a memo to Haraway, I said. Irregularities, over-insured shipments. Then she vanished. Wolfe opened his eyes. Yes, he said. Now we have motive. She threatened profit and exposure. And we have method, I said. Light tricks, staged shadows, bodies moved and placed. Wolfe nodded. And we have a hand, Cal Rusk, who edits the lamp. Tomorrow we will gather the head and the hand in this office and force the narrative to collapse. I leaned forward. Wolfe, I said. Rusk threatened that the missing girl might not be breathing. Wolfe's gaze held mine steady and cold. That was designed to unsettle you, he said. It unsettles me as well. Therefore we will act with speed tomorrow morning, before the 11 o'clock meeting. Inspector Kramer will be invited, and he will not enjoy it. You are going to call him, I said. Yes, Wolfe said. He reached for the phone. Archie, he added, you will sleep in the front room tonight. If anyone comes to correct anything on my property, you will be ready. I blinked. You mean if someone comes to edit your lamp? Wolfe's eyes narrowed. Exactly. He dialed Kramer, and when Kramer answered, Wolfe spoke with the calm authority of a man delivering instructions to a stubborn subordinate. Inspector, Wolfe said, you will meet me at 7:30 tomorrow morning at my house. Bring 2 men. We will go to Queens to retrieve Maris Kane. You will also arrange for Cal Rusk to be present in my office by 10:45. He will be a witness, willingly or otherwise. Kramer's voice came through the receiver, rough with sleep and resentment. Wolfe, you are out of your mind, Wolfe replied. Possibly, but I am correct. Good night. He hung up. I sat back and exhaled. You enjoy that, I said. I endure it, Wolfe replied. Now, Archie, review the sequence. Riddle summoned me. Riddle died. Sloane died. Lanning spoke to you, then died, and was placed. The diner footage shows Haraway in contact with Lanning. The lamp is manipulated to create false timing. Cal Rusk manipulates the lamp and purchased a floodlight. Maris Kane discovered irregularities in Haraway's special handling and vanished. Therefore, Haraway is at the center, and his associates are the hands. Unless Haraway is being used, I said. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. By whom? He asked. By someone higher, I said, or someone who wants Haraway to take the fall. Wolfe nodded slowly. A reasonable caution. But the memo went to Haraway. The special handling unit is his. He met Lanning in secret. Those are not the behaviors of a mere pawn. I looked at the clock. It was past 1. The city outside had quieted, but it never truly sleeps. It just changes its disguise. "All right," I said. "Tomorrow we go to Queens at dawn, rescue Maris Kane, then host a civilized gathering at 11 with Haraway, Kramer, and whichever liar comes to fix his mistakes." Wolfe's eyes fixed on the dark window. "Yes," he said. "A careful liar always returns, and tomorrow we will be waiting in full light." I went upstairs to the front room, but sleep came thin. In my head I kept seeing the shadow hitting the wall before the man did. It was the same trick, the same arrogance, the same belief that reality could be rearranged with a wrench and a floodlight. That belief was about to meet Nero Wolfe, who does not tolerate edited truth. Not in his city, not on his street, and certainly not under his lamp. Chapter 8. When the shadow speaks, Cal Rusk froze, when Wolfe stepped forward from the dark. The lamp lit the wall perfectly now, revealing the same impossible shadow trick. Rusk had staged the crime scene, moving the body and adjusting the light to frame another man. But shadows remember where they were forced to stand. And on Riddle Street, the shadow convicts long before the truth arrives. Mourning in Wolfe's brownstone is a ritual, and Wolfe is the officiant. Even when a woman is missing and bodies are being delivered to alleys like unwanted parcels, Wolfe still expects his schedule to hold because he believes civilization is maintained by stubborn insistence. At 7:15, Fritz served breakfast, with the expression of a man who would prefer to be serving it to sane people. Wolfe ate, methodical and silent, and I ate because I had learned that chasing criminals on an empty stomach is a poor way to remain charming. At 7:20, 5 Inspector Kramer arrived with 2 men and a scowl that looked permanent. He stood in Wolfe's office, glancing at the shelves, the desk, and Wolfe's chair, as if they were personally responsible for his profession. "You called me out of bed," he said. "I called you to work," Wolfe replied. Kramer's jaw tightened. "You got something solid or just more shadows?" Wolfe's voice was calm. "We have an address," he said. "Mr. Panzer located a riverfront yard leased through a shell company tied to Mr. Haraway's attorney. It has smooth floors and plastic sheeting purchases, consistent with the blood smear pattern. It also has floodlights." Kramer's eyes narrowed. "You got that from Panzer?" "Yes," Wolfe said. Kramer muttered something about private detectives and tax deductions. Then he said, "All right, we go. But if this is a wild goose, it is not," Wolfe said. "Wolfe did not accompany us to Queens. He is not built for raids, and he knows it." He remained in his chair and instructed Kramer as if directing a staff meeting, which made Kramer's ears turn red, but did not stop him from listening. "You will enter with minimal commotion," Wolfe said. "You will retrieve Miss Kane alive. You will not destroy evidence in your enthusiasm. Mr. Goodwin will accompany you because he is useful." Kramer glared at me. "Useful? Lucky me." We drove to Queens in a grey police sedan that smelled of stale cigars and old impatience. The riverfront yard Saul had described sat behind a chain link fence with a sign bolted to it. The sign showed a stylized bird, angular and sharp. It could have been a hawk, it could have been a gull, it could have been a joke, but it was not funny. Kramer stared at the sign. "That bird again," he said. "Yep," I said. "They like branding." We entered quietly. One uniform took the side gate, another circled. Kramer and I went straight for the office structure at the back, a low prefab building with a metal door and a padlock. The padlock had fresh scratches. Kramer pulled out bolt cutters. I held up a hand. "Try the handle," I said. He tried it, unlocked. We went in. Inside, the air smelled of bleach and plastic. A floor lamp stood in the corner, portable and powerful floodlight. A roll of clear sheeting sat on a table beside duct tape. On the floor, a mattress, thin, and a blanket, a coffee cup, a length of rope, and in the back room, behind a half-open door, Maris Kane sat on a chair with her wrists tied loosely. as if her captors were more interested in intimidation than restraint. She looked pale, eyes too bright, hair pulled back in a careless knot. When she saw us, she did not cry. She did not scream. She exhaled as if she had been holding her breath for days. Kramer said, "Polis." I said, "Friends, if you can tolerate the term." Maris Kane's voice was dry. "I can tolerate it," she said. "Get me out." We cut her free. Kramer asked the first questions, quick and blunt. "Who did this? Who kept you here?" Maris Kane rubbed her wrists. "Not the man you arrested," she said. "Not Kester, he is a technician. They used him. They used a man named Cal Rusk, too. He came once. He brought the floodlight." Kramer's face tightened. "Rusk, we got him." Maris Kane's eyes flicked to me. "Nero Wolfe sent you," she said. I nodded. "He did." "He is right," she said. "It is about timing. They think if they control when things look like they happened, they can control who people blame." Kramer snorted. "You talking about the street lamp?" Maris Kane looked at him steadily. "Yes," she said. "And the floodlight, and the staging. They killed Mr. Riddle because he was going to confess. They killed Mr. Sloan because he handled the routing. They killed Mr. Lanning because he spoke to Wolfe's man." Kramer's eyes hardened. "Who is they?" Maris Kane swallowed once. "Victor Harroway," she said, "and his counsel, Baron Klein. Klein runs the shell companies. Harroway runs the money. They call it special handling. Special handling. They hide valuables in shipments and insure them high. Then they file claims when cargo is lost in transit. Sometimes they arrange it. Sometimes they do not need to. The paperwork is the weapon." I felt my skin tighten. "What valuables?" I asked. Maris Kane's mouth compressed. "Stolen jewelry," she said. "Cut stones, sometimes cash sealed in machine parts. Small, dense, easy to hide. They used Riddle importing as the front for customs. They used Harroway to move it. When I found the pattern, I wrote a memo. I sent it to Harroway because policy required it." Kramer muttered. "Policy." Maris Kane's gaze turned colder. "Policy got me kidnapped," she said. Kramer asked, "Why kill Riddle?" Maris Kane said, "He panicked. He wanted out. He wanted to go to the police. Harroway told him. The police would bury him. Riddle believed it. He decided to go to Wolfe instead. He wrote the note. He thought Wolfe would protect him with attention. He was wrong," I said. "Riddle brought Wolfe into it." "Yes," she replied. "They needed a scapegoat, or at least a distraction. Wolfe is perfect. Famous, eccentric. Easy to paint as meddling. They staged the alley so it would look like Wolfe arrived at the right time to be blamed. They adjusted the lamp so the shadow would imply sequence." Kramer frowned. "How does a shadow imply sequence?" Maris Kane looked at him as if he was slow. "If a witness sees a shadow at 8:55, they think the person was there at 8:55, she said. "If you shift the lamp, you can make a shadow appear sooner, or you can cast another shadow with a floodlight. You can make it look like two people were together when they were not." Kramer stared, then looked away, irritated at having to understand. Maris Kane continued. "They used Cal Rusk for the physical staging, moving bodies, placing props, adjusting light. They used Martin Kester for city access, trucks, tools, plausible presence." I said, "Where does Baron Klein fit?" Maris Kane exhaled. "Klein is the planner," she said. "He told Harroway that Wolfe could be manipulated. He told Harroway that timing would confuse. He told them to plant initials MK to make me look guilty if I ran. He told them to use Lucy's to establish false statements. He told them to kill Lanning and place him at Harroway warehouse to keep the story centered there." Kramer's face darkened. "You got proof?" Maris Kane's eyes hardened. "I have the shipping lists," she said. "The ones you saw in the warehouse were bait. The real ledger is in Harroway's private office safe. I saw it once when I was auditing. It has the green seal codes, the insured values, and the claim numbers. It ties directly to Harroway's special handling." I looked at Kramer. "That is your warrant," Kramer grunted. "It will be." We escorted Maris Kane out. The river wind off the East River was cold, and she shivered, but she kept her chin up. A woman who survives kidnapping does not want pity. She wants control back. Back at the brownstone, Wolfe met her in the office doorway, not rising from his chair, but projecting welcome the way he projects authority. He regarded Maris Kane with mild approval, as if she were a witness who had behaved properly. "Miss Kane," Wolfe said, "I regret your discomfort." Maris Kane's eyes flicked over him. Then she gave a small nod. "I regret it too," she said. Wolfe nodded in return. "You will rest," he said. "Fritz will provide food. Then you will speak clearly in my office at 11 when the gathering occurs." Kramer barked, "She's not your employee." At 10:45, as Wolfe had insisted, Cal Rusk arrived in custody, cuffed, escorted by 2 detectives who looked pleased to deliver him anywhere but their own desk. Rusk's face was bruised from the night before, and his eyes held that same professional irritation, but there was something new under it. Calculation strained by fear. At 11, Victor Harroway arrived. He did not arrive in a city truck. He arrived in a sleek black car with a driver who looked like he had never lifted anything heavier than an umbrella. Harroway himself was tall, well-fed, and carefully groomed. He wore a dark suit that fit as if it had been negotiated. His face held the calm of a man used to being deferred to. His eyes held the alertness of a man used to danger, though he pretended otherwise. With him came Baron Klein. Klein was lean, grey, haired, with a lawyer's polite smile and eyes that never smiled. He carried a briefcase, like it contained insurance against the world. He was the sort of man who solves problems with paperwork, and then hires Cal Rusk to clean up what paperwork cannot. Wolfe did not rise. He did not offer a hand. He offered a chair by pointing with 2 fingers. "Mr. Harroway, Mr. Klein," Wolfe said, "be seated." Harroway's smile was smooth. "Mr. Wolfe," he said, "this is highly irregular." Wolfe's voice was mild. "Yes," he said, "so is murder." Kramer stood near the door, arms folded, looking like he wanted to arrest the furniture. Stebbins hovered beside him, notebook ready. "I sat at my desk with my own notes because I enjoy watching rich men discover that money is not armor." Lucy sat in the side chair, stiff, angry, and frightened. Maris Kane sat beside her, pale but steady. Cal Rusk sat between 2 detectives, cuffed, jaw tight. Wolfe looked at them all, as if arranging them in his mind like pieces on a board. Then he began, and when Wolfe begins in that tone, the room becomes his whether it wants to or not. "We will proceed," Wolfe said, "by removing false narratives. Someone has attempted to control perception through light and timing. That attempt has failed." Harroway's smile held. "I have no idea what you are talking about." Wolfe's eyes rested on him. "You met Howard Lanning at Lucy's lunch at 10:20, one last evening," Wolfe said. "You then followed him out at 10:29. Mr. Lanning is now dead." Harroway's smile tightened. "That is absurd. I did not meet Lanning." Wolfe turned his eyes to Lucy. "Miss Lucy," he said. Lucy's hands clenched in her lap. She looked at Harroway with hate that had been fermenting for years. "You were there," she said. "You sat in the back booth. You told me what to say. You told me if the police asked, Lanning left early. You paid me." Harroway's gaze slid to Klein. Klein's eyes remained calm. Wolfe said, "There is also camera footage, and let that hang without showing it." Harroway's eyelids flickered. He believed, and belief matters. Klein spoke smoothly. "Even if my client was present in a diner, it proves nothing. Mr. Lanning left alive. Mr. Harroway cannot be responsible for what occurred afterward." Wolfe's eyes shifted to Klein. "You are Baron Klein," he said. "You have arranged shell companies and leased yards. You have purchased plastic sheeting. You have advised Mr. Harroway to use light to confuse sequence." Klein's smile remained polite. "Those are accusations. They are conclusions," Wolfe corrected. "Accusations are emotional. I am not emotional." Kramer growled. We found Maris Kane in a yard leased under your name, Shell Klein. She says you planned this. Klein's eyes flicked, a small motion. People say many things when they are frightened, he said. Maris Kane's voice was quiet and sharp. I was not frightened when I read your ledger, she said. I was furious. You hid stolen stones in shipments and insured them high. You filed claims for losses that you arranged. You used Riddle to clear customs. You used Sloan to route. When I wrote the memo, you kidnapped me. Haraway's smile cracked. This is nonsense, he said. I run a logistics company. I am not a thief. Wolfe's gaze returned to Haraway. You are a thief with a corporation, Wolfe said. You prefer the term executive. Haraway's face reddened. You cannot say that. Wolfe's voice stayed calm. I can, he said. I will now show how you attempted to frame another man and how your shadow convicts you. He turned slightly. Archie, he said. I stood and went to the small side table where Wolfe had placed. In a neat line, 3 items, the green seal fragment wrapped in his handkerchief, the Lucy's matchbook with the faint embossed initials, and a folded paper. I handed Wolfe the folded paper. Wolfe held it up. This, he said, is the note from Graham Riddle. It summoned me to the alley. It stated the police could not be trusted. That is true, in your sense, because you have attempted to influence them by controlling what they see. Kramer made a sound of irritation, but he did not interrupt. Wolfe continued. The lamp was altered, he said. Not once, but repeatedly. It was altered to produce an extended shadow on the wall before a man arrived. That effect can be accomplished by rotating the lamp head by approximately 3 degrees. It can also be enhanced or counterfeited by use of a portable floodlight. He looked at Cal Rusk. Mr. Rusk purchased such a floodlight, he said. Rusk's jaw tightened. So what? So you used it, Wolfe said. You staged the appearance of a shadow before the man, to imply timing. You also returned to correct the lamp last night, after I marked it with chalk, because you are careful. Careful liars always come back to fix their mistake. Rusk's eyes flicked. He said nothing. Wolfe's gaze moved to Haraway. You wish the world to believe I arrived at that alley at a time that placed suspicion on me. You summoned me there through Riddle, then killed him and placed him in view. You then arranged a second body inside the warehouse and laid out papers as bait. When that was insufficient, you killed Howard Lanning and placed him at the same location to focus attention there. Haraway's voice rose. You cannot prove that. Wolfe nodded. You are correct, he said. Not by direct witness. But direct witness is not required. Reason suffices, Klein said smoothly. Reason is not evidence. Wolfe turned his eyes to him. A jury is composed of human beings, Wolfe said. Human beings respond to coherent explanation, supported by facts. Your difficulty is that your explanation requires too many shadows. Wolfe leaned forward slightly. Now we reach the essential, he said. Why the obsession with light? Because you wished to create a moment of guilt. A moment when an observer could say, I saw the shadow. Therefore, I saw the man. You wish to create a false witness without a human being. Stebbins blinked. A false witness? Yes, Wolfe said. A wall, a shadow. The mind treats them as testimony. Wolfe looked at Maris Kane. Miss Kane, he said. What did Mr. Rusk bring to the yard? Maris Kane's voice remained steady. A floodlight, she said. Portable. On a tripod, he tested it against the wall. He said you could make a shadow appear anywhere if you knew the angle. Wolfe nodded. Thank you, he said. He turned to Rusk again. Mr. Rusk, you used the floodlight at the alley, Wolfe said. You cast a shadow that suggested a man's presence before he arrived. You did it to implicate a man of your choosing. Rusk's mouth curled. You got imagination, he said. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. No, he said. I have geometry. Shadows do not lie. They obey. Therefore, if you force them to stand in a false position, they still remember the true light source. Haraway snapped. This is ridiculous. Wolfe's voice sharpened a fraction. It is not, he said. Because when you altered the lamp you left tool shavings, when you returned you left fresh scratches. When you used the floodlight you required power extension cords. A clamp mount. Those were purchased. A hardware shop owner remembers. Memory is evidence, Klein said. Still circumstantial. Wolfe nodded. Much is, he said. Until the final link. He lifted the green seal fragment. This was found at the first scene, Wolfe said, a torn portion of a green seal. It matches the seals on cartons in the warehouse. Those seals identify special consignments. H is Haraway, special handling. Haraway's face tightened. We have special handling, he said. That is not illegal. Wolfe's eyes stayed on him. No, Wolfe said, but hiding stolen stones inside shipments and insuring them for false losses is illegal. Kramer said, We will obtain the ledger. Klein's smile thinned. You do not have it. Wolfe's gaze shifted, and I knew he was about to deliver the part he liked, the part where arrogance falls over a simple fact. You will have it, Wolfe said, because Mr. Rusk will lead you to it. Rusk laughed, short and harsh. I will not. Wolfe nodded once. Yes, you will, he said, because your employer has abandoned you. Rusk's eyes narrowed. What is that supposed to mean? Wolfe turned his eyes to Haraway. Mr. Haraway, he said, you have two choices. You may deny and allow the police to unravel your scheme over weeks, during which your counsel will attempt to sacrifice Mr. Rusk and Mr. Kester as independent actors, or you may end this now by producing the ledger and Miss Kane's memo, and by acknowledging your role. Haraway's face reddened. I will do nothing of the sort. Wolfe's voice was mild. Then I will do it, he said. He looked at Rusk. Mr. Rusk, last night you said men like Mr. Haraway do not confess. You were correct. Men like Mr. Haraway do not confess. They discard. Rusk's eyes flicked, and for the first time his confidence wavered. Wolfe continued. You were paid to move bodies and adjust lamps. That makes you expendable. Mr. Klein will advise Mr. Haraway to deny knowledge of you. Mr. Haraway will comply because he values himself. You will face prison for murder as an accessory and obstruction. You will be known as the man who turned bolts for a thief. Rusk's jaw tightened. Shut up, he muttered. Wolfe's eyes remained steady. I will not, he said. Now listen to the final fact. You returned to the lamp last night to correct its angle. You did so because the lamp had been altered too visibly, and you feared it would be traced. That fear means you know the lamp alteration is the key to the framing, and you know who you intended to frame. Rusk's eyes snapped to me. Wolfe nodded slightly. Yes, Wolfe said. Mr. Rusk intended to frame Archie Goodwin. I felt Kramer's head turn sharply. Stebbins's pencil stopped. Lucy made a small sound. Haraway's eyes widened a fraction, then narrowed again. Wolfe said, Consider it, he continued. Mr. Goodwin chased a man in the warehouse and tore a strip of green seal. That strip would identify him as present. By altering the lamp and using a floodlight, Mr. Rusk could cast a shadow, resembling Mr. Goodwin's tall outline at a time before Mr. Goodwin arrived, suggesting premeditation. He could then place a body to be found after, creating suspicion. That is why the narrative obsessed over sequence. Rusk's lips pulled back. You cannot prove I tried to frame him, he said. Wolfe nodded once. I can, he said. Because you corrected the lamp after you adjusted it again in view of Lucy's mirror. You wanted Mr. Goodwin to chase you. You wanted him seen. You wanted his presence recorded. You were creating a trail. I felt my stomach tighten. Remembering the man at the lamp outside Lucy's, the provocation, the deliberate adjustment, the smile, Wolfe continued. But you erred. You left a chalk-marked correction last night. When you turned the lamp, the shadow moved in a predictable direction. It moved toward the position necessary to cast the false outline. Angles do not forget. They reveal intent, Klein said. This is speculation. Wolfe's eyes turned icy. No, he said. It is inference from geometry and behavior. If you wish more, Inspector Kramer has it. Mr. Rusk's floodlight purchase. His extension cords. The clamp mount. The shell yard with plastic sheeting. Miss Kane's testimony. Lucy's footage. And now, Mr. Rusk's fear. Rusk's throat worked. He looked at Haraway. Haraway's face was stiff, controlled, eyes hard. He did not look like a man protecting an employee. He looked like a man calculating losses. Rusk's voice came out rough. "You bastards," he said, not to Wolfe, but toward Haraway and Klein. "You told me I was covered." Klein's smile was thin. "Mr. Rusk, you are emotional." Rusk's face twisted. "Yeah," he said, "I am." Wolfe waited. He did not press. He let silence become pressure, which is one of his finest skills. Rusk swallowed. "The ledger is in Haraway's private office," he said, "safe behind the painting. Combination is his birthday. Klein keeps a copy too, in his firm vault." Kramer moved like a dog seeing meat. "You will give that to me in writing," he said. Rusk's eyes stayed on Haraway. "You said you would not leave me hanging," he said. Haraway's face was pale now, the suit suddenly less armored. "You idiot," he said quietly. Wolfe's voice was calm. "Mr. Haraway," he said, "your shadow has spoken." Haraway's smile was gone. He stared at Wolfe as if seeing him clearly for the first time. "You think you win," he said. "I do not think," Wolfe replied. "I conclude." Kramer stepped forward. "Haraway," he barked, "you're under arrest." Klein started to rise. "Inspector, you are making a mistake." Kramer's eyes were hard. "Save it for a judge." The detectives moved. Haraway's driver outside would be disappointed. As they were taken out, Wolfe remained seated, calm, cigar in hand. He had not shouted. He had not threatened. He had simply arranged facts until the guilty could not breathe inside their own lies. When the room emptied, leaving only Wolfe, me, Maris Kane, Lucy, and Fritz hovering at the door with the air of a man guarding the last decent meal on earth, Wolfe finally exhaled. Maris Kane said quietly, "Thank you." Wolfe inclined his head. "You were useful," he said. Lucy snorted. "That is his way of saying you're welcome," she told Maris Kane. I said, "Miss Kane, you will be safe now. Kramer will enjoy putting Haraway's face on a warrant." Maris Kane's mouth tightened. "I will testify," she said. Wolfe nodded. "Excellent," he said. "Truth is a stubborn plant. It thrives when defended." Fritz cleared his throat. "Mr. Wolfe," he said, "it is lunchtime." Wolfe's eyes shifted toward the dining room, as if he had been remembering it all along. "Yes," he said, "I have endured sufficient vulgarity for one day." As Maris Kane and Lucy were settled with food and protective arrangements, I stood by the office window and looked out at West 35th Street. The street lamp outside glowed steady and honest, casting shadows that belonged where they belonged. Wolfe spoke behind me, quieter than usual. "Archie," he said, "do you understand now why I attended to the lamp?" "Because the lamp was the lie," I said. "Yes," Wolfe replied. "And because the lie was ambitious. Ambition is always careless in some small way." The shadow arrived before the man, and that was not magic. It was manipulation. Once you recognize manipulation, you can reverse it. I turned. "You caught them with chalk and patience," I said. Wolfe's mouth tightened. "With reason," he corrected. "Chalk is merely a servant." I smiled. "Sure," I said. "Tell that to Cal Rusk." Wolfe's eyes softened a fraction, which for him counts as amusement. "Mr. Rusk has learned," he said, "that shadows remember where they were forced to stand." Outside, the city moved on indifferent as ever, but I felt a small satisfaction. On Riddle Street, the whisper had finally met the truth, and this time, the truth arrived first.